Hey there, we're playing Kerbal Space Program, where you play little green men and they try to go into space. The last time I played this game was 2016, and I never made it to Duna, which is their equivalent of Mars. I could only ever get to the moon. But we're going to see if we can get further this time. Let's just go through all the training because I forget how to play, to be completely honest with you. Hey, Justin. Let's just get started. This tutorial, presented by famous rocket scientist Werner von Kerman himself, covers the basics of rocket construction in the vehicle assembly building. He's waiting for you down there and is always in high demand. Don't dally. Okay. Welcome to today's lecture on vessel construction. I'm Werner von Kerman. Whether you want to put a satellite into orbit, make a transcontinental flight, or step onto the very surface of the Mun, you're going to need to build yourself a ship. It should be pretty easy even if you're not a famous rocket scientist like myself. In this tutorial, I'll show you around the Kerbal Space Center, then take you to the vehicle assembly building where you'll learn how to construct a simple ship. We'll cover adding and removing parts, what the parts do, how to change the performance settings of these parts, which have that option, and how to control staging. At the end of the tutorial, you'll have a craft fit for a quick hop from the launch pad. At each step, I'll lock out all the controls other than the ones you need for that step. If you still manage to mess up, took even me some time to become as skilled as I am now, you can press the back button to go back and fix things. It won't light up unless you do mess up. We're now at the Kerbal Space Center. I'll give you a quick rundown on how to get around. The KSC for short is home to the pinnacle of Kerbal endeavor and achievements for space exploration. Using the facilities you can see here, you'll be able to manage your space program, create rockets and planes, track your Kerbal explorers as they roam the solar system, find exciting new uses for explosive substances, and in the case of emergency, hire more Kerbals. To find out about each of these facilities, you can hover your mouse over them, or the facilities buttons. They show up when the cursor is outside the window. If you need to repair a structure or upgrade them in career, you can do so by right-clicking them. Take some time to hover the mouse over the buildings to see where each of them are. And when you're ready, enter the vehicle assembly building or the VAB. Tracking station. All ongoing missions can be viewed and focused. Launch pad is where vehicles built at the VAB are launched. We're reasonably confident it's a safe enough distance away from everything else. The R&D facility, our team of scientists works hard to crunch the data received from mission experiments. Here, all research technologies can be viewed, new ones discovered. The administration building may not seem like a very exciting place at first, but here's where all our strategic decisions are made. Astronaut Complex contains the living and recreation spaces for all our crew members. New applicants also apply here to be recruited. The space plane hangar allows the construction of spacecraft designed to be launched from the runway. Mission control. All available contracts can be managed. It also offers a very nice view of the launch sites for any who are brave enough to be so close to a launching craft. We want to be here. It's where spacecraft are designed and built before being moved over the launch pad. Very good. What you see in the middle of this screen is the construction area. This is where parts are placed and your craft is constructed. On the left side of the screen is the parts toolbox. It will show all the parts you have available in each of the different categories, once they're ready to pick that as. If you want your craft to be controllable, you need a command module, and it's best to make it the first part you place. This part will either contain some plucky young Kerbal crew or an automated pilot mechanism. As we're just starting, there's only one choice. Go ahead and pick that command module from the Pods tab. Originally built as a placeholder for a demonstration mock-up of a rocket, the Mark I command pod was heralded as a far safer and more reliable option than its predecessors by rocket scientists throughout the world. It's now commonly seen in active service. At least one part is placed. You can look around with the following controls. Drag. Up, down. And then zoom is shift. Okay. Oh wow, that's not what that looked like the first time I played the game. Okay. They've come a ways. Hey Ray. If you'd like your pilot to be able to make more than one flight, he or she will have to return safely to the ground or water on Kerbal. Parachutes are a simple way to make sure that happens. They can be found on the Utility tab. Change tabs by clicking their icons on the left of the part list window. When you're choosing parts, you can view the details of available parts by hovering over them in the toolbox. When the info is visible, Most parts have an additional information window which can be opened with a right click. Note that the parachute states the effective diameter in each state and what the maximum safe speed for deployment is. Go ahead and select the Mark 16 parachute by left-clicking on it. Then move it to the top of the command pod so the green sphere at the bottom of the parachute lines up with the green sphere at the top of the pod. Utility. Mark 16 parachute might be considered by some to be a little more than a random stitching together of the surplus parts it is in fact made from, but the fact remains the Mark 16 has been widely accepted as a generally better alternative to being in free fall. Okay, snap it on there. Hey, Dad. Some parts, like our parachute here, have configurable options. To set these, we need to right-click the parachute we just attached to the pod. Do that now and you'll see available parameters. On the parachute, you'll see that we can adjust our altitude and the atmospheric pressure at which to open. That setting can be quite useful on distant worlds. For now, let's check that the opening height on the parachute is at least 1,000 meters, because safety is the Kerbal way after all. For the minimum pressure slider, move it a bit to the right to 0.2. This setting prevents the chute from activating until the atmospheric pressure is above the configured value. On Kerbal, 0.2 is about 9 kilometers in altitude, so even if you stage early and arm the parachute, it'll wait until then. Oops. Oh, it's already at 0.4 or at 0.2. Okay. You can hide these options by right-clicking on the pair. Okay. When you're happy with that, we can proceed. Next up, we're going to need something to make us go. Click on the Engines tab. That's a big fella. Grab one and connect it to the bottom. Okay. Oops, I forgot you're just starting out. You're not a famous rocket scientist, and to make that craft survivable as it stands now, you'd have to be better at rocket science than me. Huh, impossible. The problem with that craft is that the solid rocket is too powerful for the payload. It'll either burn up on ascent from going too fast, or burn up coming back down. Even if you survive that, the craft's mass will cause it to fall too fast, and the parachute to operate properly. And you'd hit the surface before it could stop you. I promise to teach you how to change that to make it work in a later tutorial, but for now, let's continue. What? Well, this guy's fucked. Hit next. At least this way I get to tell you about removing parts. Pick up the back thumper and either drop it back in the parts toolbox or press delete. In you go. Instead, let's add the solid motor that's a better match for a ship of this size. At the start of your career, you'll have what I consider rubbish parts. Literally, the motor here looks like and may well be a converted trash can. That said, it does have enough oomph to get this little craft moving skyward and quickly. As you progress, you'll be able to unlock more engines and other parts. For now, let's pick up the flea and connect it. While considered by some to be a little more than a trash bin full of boom, the RT-5 can be seen in use in many space programs, perhaps possibly because it's the only option for many space programs, but nevertheless, this small booster provides a nice kick to lift small payloads to considerable heights. Use with caution though. Once lit, solid fuel motors cannot be put out until the fuel runs out. Neat. Nice one. You've built the simplest available craft possible. We could go launch this right now, but it might be safer to explain one other thing. In the bottom right, you'll see the staging stack. It's the box with the number 0 and icons for the parachute engine in it. This stack shows us which parts will be activated as we stage our rocket. What this shows is that when we activate the next stage, both the engine and the parachute will be triggered. While it could be considered funny to open the chute and fire the motor at the same time, it's not going to give you much of a flight. To fix this, we need to separate the engine and shoot in 2 stages. If you mouse over the 0 stage, you'll see a little plus. Click to add a new stage, and if you add too many, just don't. Excellent. It's important to note the stages activate from the highest number and then count down. So our first stage will be stage 1, the engine. Drag it over. And our second stage will be stage 0, the chute. That's it. We have a safe, well, relatively safe craft that's ready to go. Let's make sure that we If we need this design again, we don't have to build it all from scratch. At the top of the screen, you'll see the name for our craft. Untitled Spacecraft doesn't seem too majestic. Why don't you change that to be something more your style? And you can add a description if you'd like. When you use the load screens later, these names and descriptions will help you grab the right vessel. Call it the Goblin Express. Oh man, I was not lined up on the keyboard there. Goblin Rooksburp. Alright. Excellent work. Feel free to play around with the parts and techniques I've shown you, and when you're ready to continue, press the red button in the upper right to exit. Okay. Next, we're gonna fly away. Learn the basics of flying as a spacecraft in KSP. In this tutorial, flight instructor Gene Kerman will take you through the essential flight controls and instruments required to launch a simple hopper. Welcome to Kerbal Space Center Launch Facility. I'm Gene Kerman, and I'll teach you the basics of piloting a spacecraft. I trust you've already checked the basic instruction tutorial. If not, I recommend you do so before proceeding with this one. Today we'll do a run through of all the important controls for your spacecraft. Our little hopper from your basic construction lesson with Werner may not have all of them, but we'll do a full run through once and see if it flies. Next, flying a spacecraft is all about being in control of a generally chaotic situation. As a pilot, your main flight controls will affect the pitch, yaw, and roll of the ship. Let's look at those first. All the other controls will be locked. Pitch, yaw, and roll, the three directions you'll rotate your craft. To help you visualize these, we've taken a holiday snap of the hopper. I'll maybe remember that. You control your ship's rotation using the following controls. So we've got pitch, yaw, roll. By controlling pitch, yaw, and roll together, you can keep the ship in a controlled flight. Try it now and notice the indicator on the lower right move. Yeah, look at this. We're doing it. Throttle plus pitch, yaw, and roll, the main controls you'll need to master for successful crash-free flight. We'll skip over the throttle control for now, as this vessel has no need for it. It's a solid fuel, remember. Don't worry, I'll explain it another time when it's of use. Remember that all of these controls have a limited amount of effectiveness, so bigger, heavier ships will probably respond much more sluggishly than a little small one. It's also good to keep in mind that as stages are separated from the ship, it'll become lighter, and this will usually mean easier to control. Look at the rest of our controls. In flight, all the planning you put into the staging sequence of your ship comes into play. From launch to the final deployment of the descent parachutes, you can control the activation of several of the ship's parts by activating stages, which is space. Notice the stage indicator in the lower left-hand corner. There's our engine from before. It shows the currently active stage. Since we haven't launched yet, it's showing the first stage is active. I have your staging controls locked for now, so the stage indicator is glowing purple. One more thing on staging. If the staging setup is causing strife or you change your mind about something, you can edit the stage sequence on the fly. Pun intended. No need to go back to the assembly factory. Sounds safe. An important part of flying is knowing how your ship is oriented and where it's going. That's why a good pilot is always aware of the ship's attitude, where it's pointing, and its velocity vector, which is where it's going. These aren't always the same direction, and as your skills improve, you should pick up on these. The big round instrument in the lower corner is something called the nav ball. This device sums up most of the critical information needed for proper death-free flight. Here you can see the ship's nose in relation to the horizon. When you're not pointing straight up, it's easily visible as a line between the blue sky and the brown ground, as well as its heading, which is the compass bearing, 357, and speed, 0.0 meters per second. You will also get several icons that indicate things like your current velocity vector, but we'll have a look at those later. In the top center part of the screen, you have your altimeter, vertical speed indicator, and atmosphere gauges. The altimeter will show the distance to the planet's surface at sea level. This means the actual surface may be much closer, so watch out for the ground when landing. Your vertical speed indicator shows how quickly your altitude is changing. When launching, it's considered best to keep this gauge pointing up. The atmosphere gauge indicates how deep the ship is in the planet's atmosphere. This helps you know if the ship is high enough for orbiting without losing speed to air resistance, or judge how effective wings and control surfaces will be. Which is this guy. One last thing before we give this rocket the green light. In the staging stack, you can see the indicator for your parachute. This indicator shows when the chute will be activated by staging. You already know that. But the background will also change color to indicate when it's safe to stage the parachute. In the foreground, the parachute bit of the icon itself will change color depending on the parachute state. However, that by default parachutes will not deploy when unsafe. Okay. The three left show safety, safe, risky, unsafe to deploy. And the chute is unstaged in white. But then this is armed, deployed, and it got shredded. Alright, enough talk. I'll unlock the flight controls and you'll be clear for launch. At any time, you may press escape to pause the game. Pause menu, you can restart the flight. Alright, let's go, space. Don't forget our hopper only has a small rocket motor and there's no throttle control. That's why we didn't review the throttle. Go. You can try practicing some of the controls we just discussed, like pitch, yaw, roll. Also keep an eye on the parachute icon in the staging list. We're out of fuel. That shows you how safe the current environment is for chutes. Once it goes red, it won't deploy until it's clear again, even after you stage it. I realize it may be too much to learn in one go. If you forget, you can always press escape and click the view key bindings for a reminder. You can also see whether your crew are enjoying the trip in the lower right corner. Anyways, I'll hang around and watch. I'll let you know when it's safe to stage your chute. We're losing velocity here. Your solid motor's burned out and you're passing apoapsis, the highest point in your flight. And your speed is low enough that it's safe to stage again to deploy the parachute. Do so now before you speed up again and hit the surface. Hang on, hang on. You've armed the parachute. Now time to wait to get low enough and slow down enough for it to deploy safely. Don't worry. It'll do so automatically now. Well, maybe worry slightly. If you didn't fly high enough, you may not have enough air under you to slow down before you crash. I'm fine. There it goes. Now we sit back and enjoy the descent. Isn't this saying I have full fuel? It's a more, I think it's a lighter green for the fuel. It's just an empty bar right now. Coming a little fast. It'll catch, don't worry. It won't expand until it reaches the set height of 1,000 meters, which it just did. There it goes. I think even before it expands fully, it still helps slow us down. Our first successful flight. I definitely wasn't amazing at this game, but can I get out? A little backpack she's got. Oh, she has her own parachute. You survived your first quick flight. When you've landed or splashed on Kerbal not in training, you can point the mouse just above the altimeter and click the recover button to ask to be picked up. I've also unlocked the crew hatch, so if you feel like going out for a walk or swim, you can click the EVA, extravehicular activity button, that will pop out when you mouse. Oh, whoa, 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 what was this? I don't know how I feel about that salute. Please look away while I read the rest. This concludes today's lesson. To exit your training, you press escape. End scenario. Okay, I'm a little worried about this little Hitler cosmonaut I have. There she is again. Intermediate construction. What do we have here? So it'll teach us how to make stuff. It'll do a suborbital flight, very advanced ship, and then we can go into orbit, maintain orbit, collect science samples. 2 missions that talk about going to the moon, a scenario that tells us how to get back from the moon, how to dock, which I do want to brush up on because that's how I always get to the moon. And then asteroid redirect, I don't think we need to worry about right now, so we won't waste too much time looking at those ones, but we're on intermediate construction. Hello again. Glad you could come back. To get started, go ahead and enter the VAB, and I'll give you the overview of what we're building today. Okay. Here we are again. To business. If you remember, in our last construction tutorial, we covered how to build a simple hopper and some of the basics of the construction area. And this tutorial will expand the knowledge of some of the more useful features in the VAB, and we'll build a more complex craft that will be able to get us out of the atmosphere. To build our new design, let's start with the craft we built in the basic construction tutorial, though this one is just called Hopper. This will save us a little bit of time, and the accounting department's always happy when we save on time. Click on Open. Load the hopper and then remove the flea motor. Okay, so it's just... So it's just a command pod with a parachute. Alright, if you mess this up, whatever. Unlike last time, we won't be bringing the whole vessel back, so we can change our parachute stats from what we used before. Right-click on the parachute and verify the deployment altitude is 1,000 meters, but also set the minimum pressure slider all the way to the right, 0.57 atmospheres. This corresponds to an altitude on Kerbal of about 2 kilometers and means a much shorter time hanging around. I think it's because the ship will be lighter, so the parachute can handle the weight at that height. Minimum pressure 0.75. Okay. First off, let's change the name of our craft, and the description if you want, so that we'll still have our trash can special for later on. Simply change the name to something other than Hopper. Okay. Great, for this craft, we're going to give the ship some additional purpose by attaching a science experiment. We can run these experiments during our travels and get valuable science data for Kerbal kind. There are a number of science experiments to be performed, but at the moment we only have the Mystery Goo containment unit available. Switch to the Science tab, and look at it. This unit was something one of our engineers came upon while dumpster diving researching alternative applications for existing technologies. It's a sealed container which appears to be filled with a strange-looking substance. We couldn't reach in or break the canister open, but watching how the goo behaves when subjected to different situations could be very educational. This is one of the most basic scientific experiments Kerbal scientists have devised, and one of the first things they want to try and understand better. I mean, they don't even know what color the goo is. When you pick up the part, you'll see that it's designed to attach to the sides of other parts, i.e. radially. If we attach only one of these, then during flight our craft will be unbalanced. One way to solve this is to add an extra goo container on the opposite side of the rocket so they balance. Luckily, we have a symmetry tool to help here. These buttons control symmetry, highlighted, and angle snap, and can be found on the lower left of the screen. Press the symmetry button or press X. So this is, it's mirrored, and then we want 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, it only goes up to that. Remember to place the canisters near the nose. Okay. Hey, this pod looks different than the one in the tutorial. Oh! This tutorial's so old it's using the old command pod. That's fine. If we add too many parts here, the craft we're making will be too heavy to survive re-entry safely, and too heavy to be slowed by a parachute, leading to sudden impact syndrome. So we'll need to add a decoupler below the pod. Decouplers can be found in the coupling tab, and will let us split the craft when we no longer need the lower parts. We won't be able to recover the discarded parts, but at least our craft and our Kerbal will survive re-entry and landing. Decouplers can be used in many ways, but for now, let's just add one to the bottom of the pod. Decouplers can be used in many ways, but for now, let's just add one of these to the bottom of the pod. Right, TD12? Yeah. Note that stacked decouplers have arrows. The arrows show which side is the side that decouples. Make sure the decoupler's arrow is pointing up towards the pod, which is what it does. This stacked decoupler is equipped with a small explosive charge that will sever the structural linkage between itself and whatever it's connected to. Painted on its side are handy arrows indicating which side will attach. Ejection force 100. This can come up later if you like if you're cutting your engines, but the engine below you has the momentum and it just keeps going up and sticking to you. As you recall, in the previous tutorial we had to adjust the staging stack when we added the engine to our earlier rocket. When you added a decoupler, the extra stage is automatically added to the stack so that any new parts below the decoupler won't be staged at the same time as those above it. You can of course move all these around, but hopefully this will save you some time as you go. If you ever want to return to this default staging setup, click the reset button. This time we're going to use a liquid propellant rocket engine. Unlike solid rocket motors, these engines don't carry their own propellants with them, so we'll need to add some fuel tanks. Go to the fuel tanks tab. We're still using these early parts, so they're only FLT 100s. We're going to need 5 of these to get us to space. Before you grab 5 tanks, though, let me give you another tip. When you place the first tank on the rocket, you can duplicate that by holding left Alt and then clicking on the tank. Hello? Incredible. Five FLTs done. Good. Switch over to the engines tab. Now the swivel engine you see here is obviously different from the fleet we used before. This is a liquid engine, and it needs and burns both liquid fuel and oxidizer. Funnily enough, that's what we just added to the rocket. The LVT-45 engine was considered a breakthrough in the LVT series due to its thrust vectoring feature. It can deflect its thrust to aid in craft control. All these added mechanics, however, make for a slightly smaller and heavier engine in comparison with the other LVTs. Okay. Once it's at the bottom of the stack, see the staging changes. So we press space and that fires the rocket, and then we press space to cut the fuel tanks away, and then we press space again to detach the parachute. We're almost there and you're doing fine. Maybe not as speedily as someone of my caliber though. The last thing we're going to need to do is give this rocket a little better stability so it keeps going the way we want it to go. We'll achieve this by adding some fins. Alright, aerodynamics. If I was aerodynamic, I would look like this. A basic fin. This simple bolt-on aluminum fin may not be the cutting edge of aerospace engineering, but it's dirt cheap and will make your rocket slightly less unstable. And, oh man, those are some fucking big rivets. We want quad symmetry. Drop a basic fin on the last rocket tank. Look at that. Ready to rock. Let's save it. We've now got a rocket that'll let us reach for the stars. Admittedly, I did say reach for, as this is a basic rocket which can't achieve orbit, but on the bright side, that means re-entry will also be basic. You've done a great job in building a basic hopper and a sub-orbit capable rocket. Hopefully you've learned a few things about how to build a craft and how to use some of the shortcuts that are here. Feel free to hang around a bit and try your hand at other things too, or perhaps you could look at the next lesson on suborbital flight, where we'll see just how well this rocket performs, or head over to the science tutorial to learn how to advance your career and unlock more parts. If you could show yourself out of the construction facility with the red button on the top right when you're done experimenting, that'd be great. Auf Wiedersehen. I'm a little worried about these little Hitler Kerbals. Suborbital flight, this is us. Learn how to escape Kerbin's atmosphere and return safely. In this tutorial, flight instructor Gene Kerman will take you through the essential flight controls and instruments required to launch a simple rocket to an almost respectable altitude. How to get back in one piece, go! Hello again. Glad you could make it back. Today we'll make an exciting step. Getting our first Kerbal into space. Yep, with a capital S. Hopefully you remember the controls we discussed in the basic flight tutorial, but don't forget you can always press escape. Let's get started. Your mission today is to make a short suborbital, less than orbital flight out over the water to the east. It's a nice arcing path that ensures a gentle, survivable re-entry. Straight up, then straight down is not so good for survival. I've set up the pink target indicator on the nav ball as aim point, but do note that this is not the case for normal missions. The target marker is normally used for other things and does not help with ascents. Starting with the nose pointing straight up on the launch pad or 90 degrees elevation from the eastern horizon. Tilt east to 80 degrees elevation on the nav ball by 100. So once we start going at 50 meters per second, we have to start tilting it toward 150 meters per second. And then at 250 meters per second, we tilt east to 70 degrees. And then after we're out of fuel, coast up, have a look around, prepare for re-entry. Once we reach burnout, which is when we're, okay, so this is the part where I have trouble with not wasting fuel in ascent. So at 50 meters per second, we have to start to turn. All right, I wish they kept that on the screen. That was needed information. Unlike the Hopper, this new craft has liquid fuel engines, which means we have, oh fuck, I could have just, this is our throttle we're controlling here. See, ideally we don't want to waste fuel. Because if we're going too fast at certain thresholds in the atmosphere, we're wasting fuel fighting gravity. SAS stands for Stability Augmentation System, although Kerbal astronauts usually refer to it as Sickness Avoidance Scheme. Whatever it stands for, what it does is try to stop the ship from spinning around using the computer-controlled auto-torque device drive compensator technology to counteract the rotation of the ship. In its simplest mode, it'll keep the ship aligned with the orientation when you turn SAS on. Or if you pitch yaw roll while SAS is on, the orientation when you release the controls. SAS can be activated or deactivated momentarily by holding down the F key. Okay. And it can be toggled with the T key. Neat. If you have problems following maneuvers, once you enable SAS and lift off, you can click the small red button to the left of the nav ball that has a miniature target indicator. That'll cause the SAS to follow the target indicator and fly for you. Note, this autopiloting function will not be available until you're flying. So what do I do? Once you enable SAS and lift off, you can click the small red button to the left. Anti-target target. Okay. This craft has a bit too much engine, so we're going to throttle down for launch. Set your throttle to 2/3. Okay. Turn on SAS to help control things. Some of the information is quite detailed and could take a while to read. As this is a short suborbital hop and I don't want you to miss anything important, I'll place a warning at the top of the pages where you might want to pause the game. The warning will look like this. Warning, detailed info. Enough talk. I'll unlock the rest of the flight controls and you'll be clear to launch. At any time you may press escape to pause the game. In the pause menu you can restart the flight. I've enabled the target marker on the nav ball. Give it a look to make sure you see it. Just this pink marker. Double check your throttle is at 2/3. SAS is enabled. Yep, and then hit space. Start turning at 50 meters per second. Wait for a little bit more speed before we start to turn. Okay, turning. Where's 80? Follow the target marker to 80 degrees by the time you reach 150. Oh shit, we're way after that. Looking good. Let's turn a little more. We're aiming to the 70 degree pitch line. You can follow the marker as it moves there. Did I overturn? I think I overturned based on the fact that this is a... Oh, yep, I overturned. Excellent work! We've got the rocket just where it needs to be. We're really cooking along now. As we get up to these higher speeds, you might start to see some heat effects, but we'll clear the atmosphere before it gets too spicy. Hold the course and we'll reach burnout soon. Oh, looks like you're not going to clear the atmosphere. All right. I misread it because my heading's 90, but he was like, turn to 70 degrees. Let's restart. Revert. I'm just going to put on autopilot here to see what he does. All right. Follow the target. Go. This isn't 90 degrees at all, though. I always have trouble with this. Oh, it says 70 here. Okay. Turning a little more. Hopefully we get to an orbital trajectory before we run out of fuel here. You've succeeded in getting your ship on a trajectory bound for space. I've now set your target indicator to align with your velocity vector. That'll minimize drag by turning the smallest side of the vehicle into the airflow. Somewhere around here, you'll see the nav ball speed indicator auto switch from surface to orbit, accompanied by the speed number jumping. Now we're in an orbital speedometer. Or I can switch it to surface. You might have noticed some flickering flames near the end of our burn there, which is due to the high speed of your craft in the atmosphere. Normally our ascent would be a little slower, but I'm sure, my friend, okay. Now that we're coasting our way to Apoaps, that's the highest point on our current projected path, we've got a little time to chat. Once you cool the atmosphere, we'll go over what you can do in space. Okay. I think it's 70 is when we break orbit. 64,000. We should get space music. There it is. Just had to burp into the microphone. While we float up here beyond the atmosphere, I'll quickly tell you about a couple of things you can do. With an advanced enough astronaut in the complex KSC, we can train our Kerbals to be able to spacewalk, or EVA, although we won't be doing that for this flight. Also, when we're carrying science devices like our goo containers, we can perform experiments. Observe the mystery goo. Mystery goo observation while in space near Kerbal. The goo seems to have clumped into a sphere and it appears to have become very brittle. I'll keep that data. Look at us. There's the space center down there. Can I point it toward my Apoaps? I think so. Prograde? Hopefully this will all come back to me. I did play for a decent amount. As we near the edge of our atmosphere again, it's time to reorient. Okay, great. Hold steady on your new attitude. Let SAS do this job and get ready to decouple the stage and start re-entry. All right. Decouple. So that'll burn up over the ocean, hopefully not kill anybody. And we'll just glide down to Earth, and our parachute will cut at the... not the last second, but our parachute will open very late because we're so light. Farewell, rocket. Now, the point I never got to is I've seen people make rockets that are completely replaceable. So you don't drop anything, you fly up into space, bring it all back down in one go. During re-entry with your pod oriented this way, drag producing items near the top, aerodynamic forces alone will hold it properly stabilized. So it's time to turn SAS off and let the air do the work for you. You're now re-entering Kerbal's atmosphere. Make sure you keep all hands and feet inside the pod at all times. We don't want you getting burnt or anything. Don't mind the flames. Werner is a world-famous rocket scientist, after all, and he's built this ship to withstand them. Last time we watched the parachute icon to wait for the right time to open the chute. This time we're going to do something a little different. Remember in the construction tutorial where you design this vessel and you set the chute to not semi-deploy until 0.75 atmospheres of pressure? That means the chute won't perform the first of its 2 deployment steps until even then. Even if you activate it by staging now on Kerbal, 0.75 atmospheres is about 2,000 meters altitude above sea level, and the craft should be traveling slowly enough by then that the chute will survive deployment. So let's take the bold step of arming the chute. Awesome. So while we wait for your chute, while we set your chute not to accidentally semi-deploy until around 2 kilometers, we do look out for you at mission control. We do need to ensure that the opening height is correct. You can even adjust these parameters during flight. Don't touch the pressure slider. I'm not even going to open that and risk it. While we're waiting, I want you to look at the bottom of the capsule. Note that you don't have a heat shield. You don't need one because this is such a gentle flight. Actually, a heat shield would make things more dangerous on this craft because the additional mass would be pushing the limits of this model of parachute. Yeah, I played just as they added the heat damage, which changed some of the lazy habits I had with building rockets, so I died a lot more. I'm going to do a little experiment here with the goo. The goo jiggles and wobbles as the craft flies. I would hope so. It's going to deploy any second now. Enjoy a leisurely float down to the surface. So it's open, but it's not going to actually open until very late. Here we go. Oh, bit of G-forces there. Luckily, it's not Roller Coaster Tycoon. Now we just glide the last 200 meters to safety. Can I speed time up for this? No. I'm not paying that much for suborbital space flight. We could spin a bit if we wanted to. Whee! Welcome back. Congratulations on completing and surviving your first real mission. You've managed to launch, control your vessel into space, the autopilot did, orient yourself correctly, and land safely. That's quite an achievement. I'm going to do that again because we did use autopilot. This is the weakest part of the game for me. I'm decent at docking and orbiting and shit. Tilt east to 80 degrees at 50. It's the slow tilt I have a problem with, because if you tilt at the wrong angle, you're wasting fuel. What was the thing with the goo, Justin? In the career mode, which is what we're going to play on. No, I don't fucking care about sticky keys. In the career mode, you have to advance down a tech tree to get more rocket parts, so you have to do experiments in different biomes of different planets, and then bring that back. And one of the experiments is the mystery goo. So, for example, mystery goo in space is different from mystery goo in the atmosphere. So that's 2 different experiments we can use to advance the tech tree. But let's take off. Start turning at 50 to, what did they say, 80? Which is like this very first line outside my center. Keep it on target, and then at 150 we start to turn even more. And then at 250 we throttle up.
Nope, I think I did it wrong. I think I fueled up too quick. Let's see if we can reach orbit here. We can lose a little bit of fuel on efficiency. That actually, a lot of my shit started to burn up. It was aligned to 70 degrees. Did I turn too soon? At some point, yes, at some point you get like radar dishes to transmit things back to space, back from space, but I think you get a lesser percentage, so you get maximum science if you carry it back yourself, but of course not all ships are capable of doing that, especially like unmanned satellites and shit. Let's read this again. Tilt east to 80. Okay, and then once I hit 250, I start to turn 270. It's tricky because it's like, this is great for seeing how far I'm going, but that like just, it's great for replicating the steps. It's not helpful for learning myself. So yeah, we want to hit 80 by 150, and then at 250 we want to hit 70 by 400. Okay. Okay, that's pretty good. And then at 200, we want to go all the way to 70. And then at 400, we throttle up. Steady. All right, perfect. That was a little more informative than the old tutorial, so I'm pretty confident we can get into space. Well, now that we know how to get into space, with some decent efficiency, we'll know if a ship is like fundamentally flawed. Because I'm definitely the type of player to over-engineer my ships. All right, end scenario, we did it. Yeah, back when they had the old tutorials, and then also when they didn't have a tutorial, I had to watch a lot of Scott Manley stuff. Who is a man that loves Kerbal Space Program. Welcome to the Advanced Construction tutorial. I've had to delay some important work today to fit this in, so pay close attention. In we go. In our last tutorial, we built a vessel that could escape the atmosphere, but didn't have enough oomph to escape for long. This time around, we'll cover more advanced rocket design concepts like multiple stages and boosters, as well as the extra parts like RCS and solar panels. You'll want these if you spend more than a few minutes in orbit. When we're done, you'll have a craft capable of ascent to orbit, orbital operations, and a safe return to Kerbin. And you can test it out in the Go for Orbit tutorial, which will teach you how to make use of it all. You'll notice that there's a lot more parts available this time. That's because an orbit-capable craft is much more complex than the little puddle jumper I showed you how to make last time. However, the main principles are the same, so I hope you remember what I taught you. If you mess up and, say, somehow manage to delete your whole craft, just hit Control-Z. Again, you only have one pod available, so go ahead and select it. Just like last time, select a parachute, the Utility tab. And again, like last time, adjust the parachute parameters, 0.75. We're now going to construct an upper stage. This upper stage will finish placing the pod in orbit and once there, provide RCS steering thrusters and electricity for the pod. It will also provide all maneuvering capability in orbit, including the re-entry burn. It's going to consist of a decoupler, we don't want to carry it home, an RCS fuel tank, a liquid fuel tank, 4 RCS thrusters, 4 solar panels, 4 batteries, and an efficient upper stage engine. That's quite the shopping list. Let me know when you're ready to proceed. First, we'll add a stack decoupler below the pod. Grab a decoupler. Next, we'll add an RCS tank. RCS stands for Reaction Control System. Those are like thrusters. Your craft's not going to need all the monopropellant in the tank, so to save some weight, right-click it and slide it down to 96. Monopropellant is called that because while large rocket engines use 2 propellants, fuel and oxidizer, RCS uses just propellant. RCS is generally less efficient, but it's good for small velocity changes in any direction rather than just forwards like the main engines do, and can be used to rotate the craft as well as move it. We'll be adding multiple liquid fuel tanks in this stage to get the right amount for the upper stage engine, and we need an extra tank to offset the weight of the RCS. So add a tiny rocket propellant tank, the FLT-1000, and then add the medium below it. The FL series was received as a substantial upgrade over previous fuel containers used in the space program, generally due to its ability to keep the fuel unexploded more often than not. Fuel tanks are useless if there isn't a liquid engine underneath it. They can also be stacked with other fuel tanks to increase the amount of fuel for the engine below. Okay. Lastly, for the main parts of this upper stage, we'll add an engine. The Terrier engine produces almost no thrust at sea level air pressure, but it's highly efficient in space, and above 20 kilometers, where the atmosphere is thin enough to not interfere with the exhaust. This makes it a good choice for an upper stage, since the engine will not be activated until the rocket has reached the conditions where this kind of engine works well. The Terrier. This model was initially received with some skepticism by spacecraft engineers, as it defied the long-standing convention that more power is always better. Despite this, the 909 series has found its place in spacecraft construction, being particularly useful as a final stage in the landing stage. Nicely done. That's a pretty well assembled upper stage, if I do say so myself. It'll get you into orbit if you put enough rocket under it. While we have this reasonably simple vessel here, let's explore one of the other useful tools we have. To make sure that your ship flies controllably, some parts need to be placed carefully around a point inside the ship called the center of mass. This center of mass is a spot where the mass on one side is balanced by the mass on the other side. Thrust applied through the center of mass will cause the ship to move without unwanted rotation, while thrust, properly applied around the center of mass, will cause the ship to rotate without moving. This makes the center of mass such a useful and important thing that we added a tool to the assembly building can show you with its marker. Let's have a look at how that indicator works here. Click on it. Our center of mass is there, which is that's the center of the ship. That's good. And the rockets go through it. Let's adjust the fuel levels in some of the tanks and see how this adjusts the center of mass. Let's do this one. We don't want that though. We want full. Hey, I can color you. That's, yeah, ooh, that's new. What, full white? Some colors? Gray and orange? I don't even see the orange. I like that, though. As you're doing this, you'll see the center of mass move. During the flight, the vessel's center of mass will move in the same way as it burns its fuel. Oh, yeah, that's true. Right-click on each of the fuel tanks and drive the oxidizer and fuel. Don't touch the monopropellant levels. I didn't. Oh, this one I need to empty. It's my fault. So that's what the center of mass will look like once everything's empty. Go ahead and refill the tanks. And we can proceed to add some of the accessories to our upper stage. They'll transform it from merely something that gets us into orbit into something that helps us once we're up there. Okay. Now that you know where the COM is, where the stage is full and when it's empty, you have the information you need to place RCS thrusters. RCS thrusters are found in the command and control category. Moving the spaceship without rotating it is called translation. This is a useful kind of maneuver for several reasons, including docking to another craft. In order for translation with RCS to avoid unwanted rotation, you need to balance the thrusters around the center of mass so the net sum of forces is balanced right on this natural pivot point. For two equal sets of thrusters, each set should be equidistant from the center of mass, and for a single set, what we're doing here, they should be right around the center of mass itself. What makes this complicated is that the center of mass changes during flight, as you just saw, so you need to place the thrusters at a compromise point between the wet COM and the dry COM. Note that in career mode, RCS doesn't become available until very late. In the meantime, the reaction wheel capability built into your command pod will probably be enough for turning in space, though reaction wheels will not allow you to translate. Let's turn on angle snap to make aligning the thruster parts easier. Do that by clicking on the toggle snap, which we go from circle to angled. Ensure we have 4 times symmetry. And then we want the RV105RC thruster block. Which is, where the hell are you? Where the fuck are you hiding? Command and control. The tiny rocket propellant tank is about the right place to attach these, just in case you need a limit. Right here. If you don't get the placement quite right, you can use the offset gizmo to fine-tune their position. That's fine. Make sure you turn angle snap off before using the offset. You'll want fine adjustments for that, and with snap turned on, the adjustments are anything but fine. Click the offset mode icon in the upper left. How up are we talking here? Am I fucking blind? I'm gonna put it back on snap. I'm not sure what he's talking about. Lots of things on a craft use electric charge. That's what us cool scientists call rocket electricity. In order to keep your batteries topped up, you'll need a way of generating power. Now, some engines generate electricity while they're running, but you don't want to keep your engine running in orbit. Your orbit will get all kinds of messed up, and you'll run out of propellant. Our command pod has some batteries built into it, but to be safe, you can add more batteries, and you can add solar panels and other electricity generating items. We're going to do both. Switch to the electrical, lightning bolt. We'll use our part rotation skills to adjust the panels before placing them. That's the WASD, Q, and E. Grab the Oxstat solar panel and hold it over the lower end of the fuel tanks. And then press A to rotate it 90 degrees. Four, yep. The lower end of the fuel tanks, which, I don't know, this. And then 4 batteries in between them. The Batman batteries. They're fucking big. I think the batteries are as big as me. Excellent work. You've built a nice starter upper stage, which will do well for some orbital exploration. Now we need to work on getting it up to orbit. And for that, we'll build up a lower stage. In comparison to the upper stage, it's quite simple. Just a couple of tanks and an engine. That won't be enough alone, however, so we'll add some boosters. Add another TD12 stack decoupler. Whoops. Notice how when you add the decoupler, a fairing is placed around the engine. This will get jettisoned automatically. How helpful is that if I'm decoupling later? Basically, we decouple everything when we come back down to space, into the surface. So it's like we'll do a deorbit burn and then we'll decouple all this shit so just the command pod comes down. Which is a little wasteful for career mode, but I think it's the simplest way to get down. Because that way you don't have to waste your time with a giant parachute or a lot of like deorbit burns and heat shields and shit. Now we need to add the fuel tanks to our lower stage. Add 2 FL400s. Oh, they fall off at my leisure. We will use this upper stage to fly around in space. And yeah, because the solar panels help us generate power while we're up in orbit. That'll be a problem when we're doing stuff like we're orbiting the planet for days and days waiting for a window to inject into another planet. We don't want the life support to turn off, so that's what the solar panels and batteries are for. There's some pretty serious time warping later on. 2 FL400s. This thing's going to be like a fucking Saturn V size thing. Okay. For our lower stage, we need an engine that's a sustainer. That's an engine that burns from liftoff until well after the boosters separate. Let's get scientifical for a second. Rocket engine performance is measured by specific impulse, or ISP, and the ISP of an engine changes as the amount of atmospheric pressure around it changes. Just as the upper stage needed an engine that's good at low air pressures of high altitudes, the lower engine will need boosters which are powerful at the higher air pressure of the low altitude launch pad. And to help carry the rocket through the transition from launch to upper stage, it'll need a sustainer engine, which usually sits between boosters and upper stage engines from a performance perspective, having a wide range in between the two. So add the big engine you see there, the swivel. Okay. At its default thrust level, the swivel's too powerful for the rocket we're creating. So you'll need to lower its thrust level. This isn't as good a solution as picking a smaller, lighter engine with the thrust level we want, but there's only so many options. Right-click the swivel and set it to 65% thrust power. So it'll burn a little bit lighter, but the fuel should also last longer. Yeah, it's only burning 65% as much fuel. Nice. Now you have the core of your rocket completed, but as I said before, we'll also be adding boosters to help the sustainer engine get the rocket up and running. We'll add 2 boosters symmetrically so that we keep our craft balanced. And to make sure we don't lug the useless dry mass of the boosters around after they burn out, we'll attach them using decouplers. This time, however, we'll be using radial decouplers, so the boosters can sit beside our lower stage core instead of under it. That way, the sustainer and the boosters can fire at the same time. We want 2 radial decouplers. Near the bottom of the lowest tank, like right here. More boosters is something you often hear around the KSC, and it's time to add more. Add a pair of Hammer solid rocket boosters to the decouplers. Perfect. Next stop, outer space. They are not aligned at all. Oops. That looks better. Unlike liquid fuel engines, where you can adjust the throttle, once you light an SRB, it burns at constant thrust. We can, however, use the throttle limiter as we did on the swivel. Thrust limiter 50. Do note that changing a tweakable value on a part that's been placed using symmetry applies the other one. Alright. Remember when I said I'd teach you how to make the pod and thumper craft from construction basic survivable? Well, this thrust adjusting is how that could be done. Although you'd also have to put a decoupler on it. Okay, so we want 50. These are some fairly efficient engines. This is the kind of stuff we might have to deal with in career mode as we're waiting for the next level of tech, or just to save money on fuel. Don't want to fuck up our thrust to weight ratio. Right now, those SRBs have flat pancake tops, which is simply not a good look. Oh, and bad aerodynamically. Let's fix that by adding a pair of nose cones. Boop. Now, can I color you guys? I could. Look at that. This is new. That's just neat. While we're at that tab, let's add some fins. Fins come in various shapes and sizes and styles. Help stabilize your craft. Since these fins are control surfaces, they also add some extra control authority when low in the atmosphere, where the air is thick enough for them to have a helpful effect. Add the AVR8 wingless in 4x symmetry near the bottom of the lowest fuel tank in the lowest stage, but not on the solids. Shit, 4. There we go. It's pretty fucking slick. Looks like the angles are proper. If they do overlap those parts, any flight will be interesting but exceptionally short. Excellent. We've now got all the components on our basic orbital rocket, but let's run through a few extra things before we call it a day. Firstly, we should review the staging stack to check the order of actions and parts displayed there. It's lucky I've highlighted this for you, because the SRBs are set to fire before the sustainer, and that just won't do. You won't have enough thrust to get off the pad that way. Move the swivel staging icon down to the same as the SRBs. So see, we fire all the rockets, and then when the boosters run out of fuel, we disconnect them. And then we should probably be on our way into the orbit when this runs out. So then we decouple that, and then we've got this guy to correct our orbit and keep us there and then burn us back down. Right? Yep. All good. Finally, pick up the pod and rotate it 90 degrees. This will rotate the ship not just in the VAB, but also set its orientation when we go to the launch pad so that our desired flight of heading east, compass 90, will be a matter of steering the pitch. I can't tell which way it's facing. By default, parts in the VAB are oriented so they're facing north, but I'm not sure which way we're facing right now. And when we play in career mode, this rocket will cost us 10,000 Kerbal bucks. Okay. We always make every effort to ensure our brave crew survive, and hopefully you'll take the same stance in your space program. It doesn't always work out that way, of course, but it's the thought that counts. At least to those of us not on the rocket at the time. With that in mind, let's set up an abort action group for your craft, for use in case of an emergency. Note that in career mode, you'll have to upgrade the VAB or SPH in order to access action groups. Click on the turquoise action group buttons on the left of the toolbar. Actions. Action groups let you assign the functions of one or more parts to a single specific key. There are some default action groups. Landing gear automatically go in the gear group, brakes on wheels go in the brake group, and some custom ones activated by the keyboard. Because of the order of these keys on standard boards, the action groups are numbered 1 through 9, then 0. To set up an action group, click on the desired action key you want from the menu, then click on the part you want to activate. The actions are already assigned to that group. Appear in the group actions column. To add or remove items, you simply click on them. We're going to set up an abort action group. It's triggered by pressing backspace or by clicking the big red abort button in flight. First, click on the abort button. Now click on the decoupler right below the pod and add its decouple. No, wait. Click on the decoupler right below the pod and add its decoupled action to the group. Alright, well now I regret skipping through. Oh, here we go. Decouple. Now when you trigger the abort action, the engines will shut down. Or if they can't shut down, be decoupled. Then click on each liquid engine in turn and assign their shutdown function. Okay. Shutdown engine. I normally never do this stuff. I mean, ideally, you don't want your rocket to explode. I just revert the save when that happens. Honestly, you're losing money. But you can do cool stuff like the little escape rocket so you fly to safety. You don't get any fucking challengers. Okay, decouple. I think that'll work. Now when you trigger the abort action, the engines turn off and the capsule will separate from the rest of the ship and it should be able to land by itself. Remember to deploy your parachute once it's safe, however. This may require staging a number of times since the stage counter is not affected by an abort. I didn't set the radial decouplers, no. It was next, now it's not. Orbital rockets ready to go. It's been a long lesson in which we've covered lots of different advanced techniques. Give the ship a new name and save it. That's always good for practice. Then I recommend you go try the... Okay. Orbit thingy. Save. Let's go try to get this sucker into space. Let me freshen up my drink first. Go for orbit, and then we have orbit 101, science, and then we try to go to the moon and dock. Like I said, though, a break. Alright, today we'll tackle an absolutely essential skill. for any space program getting to orbit. Without this skill, we might as well be teaching you Kerbal Flight Simulator. I trust you've already checked the other flight tutorials as well as the advanced construction ones to be familiar with the Kerbal 1 vessel. This looks very similar to the one I built. It's not the exact same one I built. Okay. As I said before, the plan here is to get our vessel and pilot into orbit. As with the suborbital flight we did previously, we'll follow a curved path to get to the point where we can circularize our orbit. Today's gravity turn, however, will be much more shallow than the path we followed previously so that we build speed towards orbit. This is different from how the Kerbal pilots of old did it, which was me when I played in the olden days. They would head straight up and then hang a right as if the air was soup or something. We'll be turning early and smoothly. But don't turn too far, you might be mistaken for one of those low-flying turkeys. As with the previous flight, I'll place a target marker on the nav ball to show you the optimal velocity vector. But do note that this indicator won't be around normally, and it's not usually used the way this tutorial uses it. I'll also display some technical information about your path as you go to help you learn the right way to get there. For now, set your throttle to max and prepare to launch. It's max because our starter engines are at 50% already. All right, markers on the nav ball. SAS is on. Let's just go target and have her do it, the pilot, see what happens. Don't worry about your throttle, you just need to pay attention to the target marker and the proper times to stage. I'll prompt you along the way. There's our fuel burning down. Time to start pitching down, follow that target marker. She is... She is turning slowly. It's almost time to cut the solids. Get ready to eject, I'm ready. Oops. Okay. Liquid fuel's getting some better efficiency now that we're higher up. No, I think they flew back into each other and exploded. Man, this thing burns for a long fucking time at 50%. I'm impressed. Go. You've survived through the first phase of the launch, and now the longer, more gentle burn to accelerate toward Apoaps. If you switch to the map, we can have a look at the trajectory, which is going to slowly fatten as we burn. If you hover over the Apoaps, you'll be able to see the estimated highest altitude of our future path. Our current Apoaps is going to be 46,000, and we actually need that to be over 70,000. We need to keep burning along that path until we clear the atmosphere by a handy margin, 80 kilometers. Cut the engine once the Apoaps hits 80. I'll cut it for you if it passes 81. Meanwhile, I'll keep an altitude display open so you can track your progress ascending and an Apoaps display to track your progress. We still got half a fuel tank, but we do need to... We basically get this to 80,000, and then we cut engines, and then once we're actually here, we just burn sideways to stretch out our orbit. But I've had a lot of rocket designs fail at this point, because this is a long burn. Apoaps is 60. Oh shit. $70. We're gonna make it. And that's gonna get us there. I've made sure the engine is shut off now, and we'll coast till we clear the atmosphere at 70 kilometers. You'll notice that our speed is dropping a little Nothing to be concerned about. It's just gravity trying to bring us back down and the air trying to prevent our success. We'll beat it, though. You're looking good. Meanwhile, I'll keep an altitude display open so we can track your progress. Yeah, like, oof, we do not have a lot of fuel to spare, but this is just a simple orbital ship. But once we get to the apoapse, we just burn again. Prograde and retrograde, I always get them mixed up. I think prograde's the way you're facing. It'll take a while to coast. Can we speed this up? Not in a tutorial. Normally you speed up and then coast. Solar panels around though, they're generating power for us. I don't think on a flight this short, but this is what I was talking about, is this little segment while you float to your apoapse, your batteries might run dry if your ship's got too much shit running. Now that we're clear of the atmosphere, we can warp ahead. Okay. He's warping for me, 10 times speed. All we need to do is accelerate some more so that we fall past Kerbal. That's basically what an orbit is, falling and missing. Gravity will be pulling us towards the center of Kerbal, but we'll be traveling so fast that we constantly miss. Rotate your craft to align it with the prograde marker. Okay. Or use SAS's maneuver node. When it's time to throttle up, I'll tell you. And we have to generate 148 meters of thrust. You can see right here it tells us when we're going to reach the node, and it estimates a 7-second burn, which I think we will barely have enough for that, and I'm guessing the tutorial gave us just enough fuel to deorbit. Might actually deorbit with the thrusters now that I think about it. But yeah, see here, it's giving us a projected orbit that we'll achieve if we follow this maneuver node. Throttle up. Almost. I'm officially in orbit. That's quite the achievement. Not the roundest. Hopefully you can see the difference between the suborbital hop and this reaching orbit ascent. Just how far and early we turned. I wasn't really paying attention to that part, to be honest with you. Notice how we designed our rocket to accelerate reasonably through the ascent and didn't go straight to ludicrous speed. Overpowering the ship's a common rookie mistake. I make it all the time. What's this? Woomerang launch site. Desert airfield desert launch site. Oh, they have new launch sites now. Kerbal Space Center, that's all there was when I played. If you want to fly solo for a bit, you can also try bringing Valentina home. You'll need to turn around 180 degrees and burn retrograde until your periapsis is less than 20 kilometers, at which height the atmosphere will do most of the braking for you. Stage away the upper stage when you hit the atmosphere edge, orient retrograde, and re-enter like I taught you in the Flight Basics tutorial. Let's try to come back down without burning to death, and then we'll try to fly it ourselves. Alright, see that with the... This is the opposite of our momentum, so that's what we want to do to kill our momentum. So we just burn, watch our orbit shrink. If you wanted to be really classy, you could actually pull it off that you'd land very close to the Kerbal Space Center, or right in the Kerbal Space Center, but we have a lot of fuel to spare, but we want a nice, not super sharp one, so there's less heat, I think.
Got a little bit of fuel left. I want to rise our periaps a little bit here. A little too much there. There we go. A very, very slow ascent. Very slow. Alright, we're in space. Speed it up. Can't warp time. Alright, so we're going to have to wait. But I want to see if this burns us up. This is kind of important because usually when I come back from the moon, I fucking just fly straight in, straight. I'm pretty sure we'll burn up on this current patch doing that. But yeah, because we'll go back into the atmosphere under 70,000, is we won't actually, like, we won't be able to complete this orbit. So as we go back in the atmosphere, the gravity will start to pull us in, and eventually our periaps will just go into the ground, and that's where we land. And then we still need to decouple it. Hopefully it doesn't burn up and explode next to us. And then we need to start over, try to manually get in orbit. The fact that I can't speed up time really does suck, though. Oh, it's going to take me 11 minutes to get there. Fucking maximum speed, then. Let's fry this bitch. I'm going to burn out on purpose just so we can decouple it. Don't have to worry about it flying off on its own. All right. Disconnect. I technically could have killed my orbit even more with the thrusters. All right, music changed. We're coming in. We're locked to our prograde, so that'll make us as unaerodynamic as possible with this fucking command pod. Slow us down a bunch. Fairly sharp descent, though. I don't know. Notice that when it's just the pod, we have very, very stiff control. It's able to control just itself very easily. Can't really see what the fuck's going on because it's nighttime on the side we landed. Not even sure if we're going to land in the ocean or on land. You got to be careful if you do something like this. Coming in for a landing, you're like, I got plenty of space, and you land on a fucking mountaintop and explode because this is just sea level. Can I unlock lights? I can. It's mostly just for looking at my own ship. Ideally, you would land on a planet in the daytime. A little spicy. Might have came in a little too sharp. Oh shit, am I facing the wrong way? I am. There, that's what I meant to do. If the health bar starts to appear for the command pod, although this command pod's fairly heat resistant, if the health bar appears, we're probably going to burn to death. Hold together, girl. We're moving at 2,000 meters per second still. Switch it to so. Oh boy, there's the health bar. Stand fast. The heat should give up. Maybe 1,500 or 1,000 meters per second. We'll start to cool off. Careful. Does SAS need to stay on? Ideally, just in case she
flips over, because if it flips over, the parachute will burn up. Just because of our shape, the air resistance keeps us steady. Alright, there we go. Whew. Once we get to like 500 meters per second, I'll pull the chute. Because as you can see, it's red. It's not going to help us. There's some debris. I think it's the rest of the ship beat us there because we slowed down so much. Alright, there we go. We're in the safe speed, safe atmosphere density. It's ordered to deploy. It won't deploy until it's absolutely safe. And then, now we can cut the SAS. Gravity will keep us where we need to go. Looks like we're landing in some highlands or something. I see mountains over there. We're definitely not near sea level. There she goes. Alright, you can hear my ship exploding. I've never actually built shuttles. I don't think shuttles are worth it. I think single stage to orbit ships are the best in the Kerbal engine. Their model. Now we need to do this all over and try to actually get up into space myself. Am I getting jazzed up for KSP? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it took them a long time to get this one to where it is. They first started development in 2011. So it took them 9 years. Almost there. We're 700 meters above sea level. So that's why you can't trust that. All right, revert flight, because I don't actually know how she got up there. That was 20 minutes in their time. All right. So throttle up. Okay. Cool. "60 meters per second we have to start pitching. Careful, careful. Pitch a little more here. Oh man, she's a little fidgety here. It's because I'm starting to get some spin. Whoa, 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 we're going off target. Alright, there. It's very slow. I'm not good at this. Is it the SAS's fault, maybe? It's the SAS's fault. We are way off our trajectory here. Should still have enough fuel to deorbit though. Get that apple waps up. Our apoapsis is rising very slowly, but I think that's because it's a very wide orbit we have, so it's less fuel to circularize it. Getting a little concerned about that fuel supply, though. Alright, now she's starting to take off. Perfect. That's good. Circularizing, it's pretty easy. Try that takeoff one more time, though, because the fucking... Yeah, let's just continue with tutorials. We're pretty much going to be able to do just the tutorials. A little longer than I expected. Yeah, definitely less efficient than the autopilot, but what can you do? The important thing is we got into space on a little baby ship that wasn't over-engineered. Go for orbit, orbiting 101. This training scenario covers the basics of flying a spacecraft in orbit, essential maneuvers like raising and lowering apoapsis and periapsis nodes, and also important concepts such as what the term apoapsis and periapsis mean. You'll start off in a low circular orbit with the Orbiter 1 training craft ready to go. Just so we can get into the career mode tonight, I think we're going to skip the MUN and the docking. We're just going to do orbit and science basics and then go right into career mode. Go right into it. We're almost at 2 hours here. Hello. Welcome to the Orbiting 101 training program. I'm Gene Kerman, and I'm going to teach you the basics of orbiting. I assume you've already done this basic flight tutorials and are now ready to learn how to get around in space. If you haven't done them, I hope you know what you're doing. Let's get started. These guys are having fun. Orbiting is really nothing more than free falling. The only thing is that as you fall, you're moving so fast forward they actually miss the ground. Because up here there's no atmosphere to slow you down at this height, you'll continue to free fall endlessly around the planet without having to use your engines. We're currently on a low, almost circular orbit around Kerbal. To get a better view of your situation, press the M key. So our orbit here is 199. Orbit here is 200, so it's almost circular. This is the map view. Here you can see your ship's position and its current trajectory around the planet. Hold right-click and move the mouse to look around and see your orbit from various angles. Also, hovering over the icons on the map will display more information about them. Close the map when you're ready. Good. Let's get practical now. I trust you already know your basic spacecraft controls. Up here, they're very much the same, except that the lack of an atmosphere makes the ship behave quite a bit differently. Because there's no drag slowing you down, for every input you apply, you'll have to apply the opposite one to come to a stop again. I'm going to remotely nudge your attitude controls a little. Try to get the ship back under control afterwards. If you find yourself totally out of control, hit T to toggle the SAS on, and it will automatically cancel any remaining rotations. Ready? Go. There. You're piloting now. Stop rotation using the pitch, yaw, and raw controls. I suggest you use the nav ball to orient yourself instead of looking at the ship. The nav ball isn't affected by camera rotation, so it should be easier to get your bearings through this instrument than by looking at the outside. almost done. Part of me's still moving. Careful, careful, careful. I should be stuck on Q and E right now, shouldn't I? There. Took forever, but we did do it. Attitude control's an essential skill for piloting aircraft. I mean, you can use the SAS. Let's have a look at the nav ball. You've probably seen the symbols of it when you're spinning around. Here's what they mean. Prograde and retrograde. This is my velocity. The point towards and point away from the currently orbited body. And then my vectors are perpendicular. They're upwards and downwards. Let's try something a little more involved. Open your map. Okay. What we want to do now is go through some basic maneuvers you'll need to know. Try raising your apoapse first. The apoapse is the highest point in orbit, and it's indicated by the node marked ap. The best place to raise your apoapse is at the periapse, which is the lowest point of your orbit. If you hover the mouse over the periapse, you'll see that we're going to reach it in a few minutes. Once there, we'll face prograde and burn. Press period to speed up time a little. Alright, period and comma control time. This time it'll put us back to normal time. Outside of training though, you'll have to warp time down to 1 times yourself, so don't go too fast, you might miss your mark. You can also click on any point in your orbit and click warp here. Holy shit, that's new. The ship system, perfect. Time to do our burn. Turn the ship to face prograde. We're now turned prograde. Once SAS engaged for you to keep her steady. Press Z to accelerate at full throttle. Keep thrusting prograde until your apoapse hits 800,000. Oh, it says right here as well. With orbital maneuvers, pretty much anything you do will affect the opposite side of your orbit. So to raise the highest point, thrust forward at your lowest point. Similar to raise your periapse, thrust prograde at apoapse. We're on our way to the apoapse now, so let's just do this. I'll warp time so we get there quickly. We're on our way to the apoapse node now. Notice how your ship loses speed as we rise. That's because we're climbing away from the planet, so we lose speed as we go higher, just like a ball does when it's thrown into the air back on Kerbal. The higher you are, the slower your orbit will be. Notice how the Mun's orbital speed is around 540 meters per second. While yours is far higher, that's because your orbit is so much lower than that of the Mun. When we reach apoapse, we'll burn prograde again to raise the periapse node and circularize our orbit. Here we go. Here we go. Turning the ship prograde. Once you're facing the right direction, fire up that engine. Probably get it to 800,000. Keep burning prograde until the orbit is nearly circular. Eccentricity will be 0 when it's perfectly circular, so keep an eye on that. Eccentricity measures how elliptical your orbit is. Why does it say that? Oh, that's hardly fucking eccentricity 0. This should change the size of your orbit. Inclination. Your orbital inclination is the angle between your orbit and Kerbin's equator. If you've managed to maintain a reasonable amount of control so far, we should still be in a nearly 0-degree inclination orbit. That is, even though we've changed the altitude of our orbit, it still has the same inclination as before. Changing inclination is done by thrusting at a 90-degree angle to your prograde vector, but without changing your pitch relative to the surface. On our present nearly equatorial orbit, prograde is due east. That means to increase our inclination so that our orbit takes us into higher latitudes, we'll have to burn towards the normal direction. If all that I said just made your head spin, the nav ball once again comes to your rescue. In this case, you'll need to use the normal vector to change your inclination. Turn the ship to the normal vector's direction and open throttle. Okay. Notice how as you burn north, the orbit starts to tilt up on one side, but the periaps and apoaps remain mostly the same. That's because we're accelerating on a completely new direction, so this maneuver doesn't add or take away any energy from the orbit, as long as we're careful to continue facing normal during the burn. Keep accelerating the normal until the inclination is about 10 degrees. I'm not sure what my orbital readout is. Oh, there it is. That's how you change your inclination. For these maneuvers, it's always better to do it in the slowest parts of the orbit so you don't have to spend as much delta V to turn your orbit around. That also means inclination changes on larger orbits, such as we are on now. Take less fuel than the same inclination change on a lower orbit. Now that I did not know. Keep in mind that changing inclination doesn't necessarily mean accelerating to the north or south. It means accelerating at right angles to your prograde and vector, which on our nearly equatorial orbit also happen to be towards the north. Now let's look in the last essential, lowering our orbit. In the reverse, because there's no air up here, we can use our main engines to decelerate as well as accelerate, because the ship's orientation will not cause problems with airflow, and flying backwards is as easy as flying forwards. Since our orbit is nearly circular, we can just turn retrograde into our burn at any time now. 817 to 769, my fucking ass, it's nearly circular. Keep burning retrograde until the periaps is around 200,000. Try getting as close to it as possible this time. If you overshoot and make it too low, turn prograde and accelerate. Let's go for the precision here. Oh, how is 159 millimeters not good enough? Oh, 20,000. Oops. Good eyes.
Mhm.
20,000 is low enough to hit the atmosphere, so you're now on a re-entry course. Once we're below 60,000, the atmosphere will start slowing the ship down to the point where we won't have enough velocity to rise back up again. That's all we need to do for this lesson. You could keep playing and either perform more maneuvers or ride this path down to a landing. Or you could skip to the next lesson. We'll do the next lesson, and it's going to take like 5 minutes to land this thing. See you on the ground. See you, man. Just science basics, and then we'll start our career mode. Hello and welcome to today's lecture on Kerbal Scientific Method. I'm Werner von Kerman, scientist extraordinaire. This tutorial doesn't really require any previous knowledge, but in order to gather science points, you'll have to acquaint yourself with almost every aspect of the game, so you should do them all at some point. We're now at the Kerbal Space Center. For a tour, see the basic construction tutorial. For now, we'll focus on the research and development complex. Hop in. Very good. What you see in the middle of the graph paper background is the tech tree. It shows how far your research has taken Kerbal technology. You don't have much to show right now because you're not a world-class scientist like myself, at least not yet, but I trust you have the potential to achieve great things. Uh-oh. It broke right away. Uh-oh. Okay, in a typical career game, you'll start with a few parts and have to earn the rest. For education's sake, I've gone ahead and given some data points to your space program, so you should have enough science to unlock the next node. The total of your current available science points is shown in the top right. 5. Let's get cracking. Select any of the available grayed out nodes and click the blue research button. What would I want? Would I want rocket engines or... decoupler is kind of a big deal. A thermometer for science. Ooh, communitrons. Let's go with this. Hooray! That's how research is done. You may have noticed that additional nodes were linked to the one you just researched, and are now available to be researched as well. Don't know what to pick next? Don't worry. You can select a node at any time, and useful information will be displayed in the right pane. This includes the new parts it contains and how much science is needed to reach it. This guy's a little finicky. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, this is all nice and jelly, but how do we get more science? You can get more by doing many things, such as gathering crew reports from regions your Kerbals visit, fulfilling some kinds of contracts, collecting samples from various locations, equipping your ships with parts for experiments, such as the mystery goo. There are many possibilities, really. Most of these actions are performed through context menus, which are displayed when you right-click on various parts, and sometimes on Kerbals. Just keep in mind that your mission needs to transmit the results or survive a physical return to Kerbal in order for the raw data points to be converted into useful science. All of the activities I mentioned and the many others you can discover are tracked in a record for future reference. You can access these science archives by clicking the yellow button in the upper left. That's it. The first and most important thing is to notice the rugged good looks of the fellow in charge. You can also see which science activities you've already performed, when, with whom, and how much science they earned for you. This is important because you see, if you repeat the same science experiment multiple times, its scientific value diminishes because you already knew part of the answer. Mind you, as a result, you'll receive less science each time you repeat an action until you get practically nothing for it anymore. Okay. Another outstanding feature of the archives is that you can check which celestial bodies you've already visited and conducting experiments on or around. You can do so by clicking the icon corresponding to the body that you're interested in. For now, you'll only see the records of the research I gave you, but once you start doing your own science, you'll be able to check it here. So yeah. I've personally, we start on Kerbin, but I've been to the Mun and Minmus, but we're trying to get to Duna for the, well, not this stream, but this series. That covers the basics of science. This is a theoretical class, and I'm sure it will all make a lot more sense if you go out and try it yourself. Oh, that was it. We can start the campaign now. Quit to main menu. Start a new game. We're in career mode. In career mode, you have to manage all aspects of your space program. Funds, reputation, and science are all active, and contracts are available at mission control. Let's pick ourselves a flag. We'll do this. Accept. Call ourselves the Crussian Federation, not Kershin. All right. Hopefully we don't embarrass ourselves too much. We're the Crussians. We're trying to get to the Mars. Duna. We have a way shittier space center because it's career mode. We have to upgrade all the buildings. Nice to meet you. I'm Gene Kerman, flight director and your guide for this quick introduction. This is the Space Center. From here you can manage all aspects of the space program. Feel free to have a look around. Hold the right mouse button. Right-click over the Space Center facilities to learn more about them. If you need more information, check out the training section way ahead of you. Research and development, we have 0 research, so we can just build little baby ships like from the tutorial. We need some contracts. That'll give us money, maybe science. Gather scientific data from Kerbin. Easy. At Kerbin World First Record Keeping Society, we need brave Kerbals with the right stuff to help achieve our dreams. We still have unchecked items on our list of records to break and would like to change that, but really there's no sense in us still talking while there's still science to be done. Shall we get to it? We just need to get a crew report before we even launch. That'll give us 6,000 Kerbals, we'll call them. I have 25,000 Kerbals. Alright, we get money for just building a ship. And I need to orbit Kerbin, which I'm not sure we can pull off with our current tech tree. I think we need fins. So for our third mission, we'll go just this. We just need to get into the atmosphere. I can only have 2 active contracts at a time. Okay. Let's just build something that'll get us into space. Hello, I'm Werner von Kerman. We've done all the training. A re-entry module. What does this cost? 600. Oh, look at this. This is new. I suppose, what's the crew capacity on this? 1. I suppose you could send like an automated ship up to grab people and put them in this. Is this more sturdy or something? Nope, this is more sturdy. This is lighter. Huh, I don't know what the... It might have more heat resistance. Let's keep it simple. Mark 1 command pod. Parachute, most important part of the space program. Now we just gotta slap some engines on this thing. No fuel tank, so all we have is a flea. I'm not sure that'll get us into orbit. We don't even have decouplers yet. I mean, that's it. We're pretty much going to launch this thing, see how high it can take us. We're going to grab one of these, though. We'll want one on the surface, and then we'll want to conduct another experiment quickly while we're ascending. I'm not even going to name this piece of shit. Well, how much is this going to cost me? Almost 3,000 Kerbals. We're going to make way more money on contracts. That's the thing, is you got to make sure that your ship is cheaper than the money you're going to bring in. Or your space economy implodes and your save file's fucked. Off we go. Here's our launch pad, because again, we're like a little baby space program right now. And that's not to play the parachute at the same time. Perfect. Hang on. I need one experiment. And I need you. We could transmit it right now for 1.3, but if we keep it in the container and we recover this part of the ship, we'll get the full 3. And he... do a crew report while we're out here on the hatch. EVA report from the launch pad. I don't think a spacesuit was entirely necessary, was it? Shut up. Get back in. Secure the hatch. Go. Another experiment quickly. Jiggles and wobbles. 7 science for that one. Keep it. Not going to name my Kerbal after Yuri. I don't have much faith in these Kerbals surviving just yet. He's a 0-star pilot. All right, we made it 10,000 meters. And because the engine's too heavy, we tip over. I think the engine can handle all this weight. The parachute can definitely handle the engine. I'm not sure if it can handle the mystery goo as well. There's the moon. One day, you bastard. Coming down. I'll pull it at 5,000 meters. Wireless connection to mission control. Pull it. We're fine. We're fine. Get a nice quick infusion of science and money. We just need some no fucking around rockets to get us into orbit, then the real science can begin. One thing is we can also conduct science in every different biome of our home world. So like on a mountain, in the ocean, at the North Pole. I have a hell of a time landing in certain parts of the world though, because I can't build or fly planes is the problem. All right, recover. I think we get some of our money back if we recover the vessel. I forget how to recover. Abort. No. The hell is it? Recover vessel. Thank you. All right, we got 29 science, and how much money do we recover? It was oh, look at that. We recovered almost all of it. So we basically just lost the money in fuel. So the parts are worth more than the fuel we put in them. So you can have like an over-engineered ship with like fucking boosters flying off and you're shedding parts, but then you're throwing money away, and we need to be a little frugal. So we went from like 25,000 Kerbals to 132,000. This guy survived. He gained 1 XP. They get special powers as they level up, I think. 29 science was the big one, though. So engineering 101, this will give us the decouplers and the thermometers. And then this will give us some real engines. And then we don't have enough for this. We're just shy of this one. General rocketry. Probably want the fins and the radial decouplers, though. And then another science machine, the barometer. A radiator panel, help dissipate heat. Micro landing struts, if it ever comes to that. And we've got radial parachutes now. I'm not sure if we have what we need to go to space. I think we need fins. We can try it, though. Oh, wait, I can actually afford I can afford fins, I just can't afford these boosters. Thumpers, I have hammers, though, don't I? I do have hammers, so we might be able to replicate the ship from the tutorial. So I want these fins. That'll give us the radial decouplers. And we could dip into aviation, but I'm very afraid to do that because that's a 45 research points gone if I can't get the hang of flying. And mostly what you do with that is you just fly around and try to gather data on Kerbal, which you'd definitely be able to recoup the 45 science. I'm just really bad at it. Flight control. Another re-entry module. Oh, this one fits too. You might be able to get this big enough for a recovery vehicle. Like, it's easier to make something with the re-entry modules than using the command pod and bringing it back. I want the big boy parachute because it's got the barometer in it. What did we grab on this one? Thermometer? Thermometer's over here. So we want thermometers and mystery goo science experiments because remember, every single time in a different situation, you can redo the experiment. So I think it's, what is it? It's ground level, and then in the air, and then lower atmosphere, upper atmosphere, in space. Maybe. Might be wrong. All right, those contracts have been fixed. These are tricky ones. Go to the designated test site and gather some observational reports. Take a crew report in a flight below 18,000 meters near Scott's Trial. I don't know where that is, and I can't control my trajectory very well for that. But I suppose, actually, you know, if we just took off in a straight line, like we just, well, not a straight line, but like we pointed our ship there and just tried to arc over it, I'm pretty sure we can... Oh, here we go. This is a good one. This one's just free money. Test this part. Just make sure you test a TD12 decoupler in flight. I have to be between 52,000 and 57,000 meters. And then my speed has to be between 650 to 17. That might be a little tricky, actually. Test the hammer, which I do have. Oh, no. Activate the part through the staging sequence when all the test conditions are met, which means I have to somehow get this thing up to 190,000 meters. Haul the Mark 16 parachute into flight. All right, like we put this on everything right now, so grab that. This is a tricky one here. I have to make sure my speed is only 100 meters per second. I'm a little concerned about some of these. We should be able to pull off and escape the atmosphere with our current loadout of tech. Test this while we're just on the ground. Splashed down. Oh. Test the LVT-45 swivel liquid fuel engine. We'll get $13,000 in 2 science, but I somehow have to get into the ocean with a swivel that's not on yet. And then these zones, I feel I need planes for the zones. Probo-Dobodyne. They want another crew report. Let's just focus on escape the atmosphere and orbit, which I think we can pull off. I mean, we're just repeating the tutorial, right? Oh no, I think my flight pad might be too stupid. You have to level up the launch pad to support the weight of your ship. For 50,000 Kerbals. I can only support a vessel of 18 tons. And I'm pretty sure we need more than that to get in orbit. Can I just open it, the ship I made? Oh, look at this. I can remotely download other people's ships right away. That's handy. But it didn't save the one I thought I was saving the ones in the tutorial. That's fucking a problem. Okay, we're fine. Okay. Let me try to remember what it was. It had the RCS and shit, which we're not going to use, so it was just this. And then a bigger fuel tank, which I don't have. Uh-oh. Plan's already falling apart. I could take orbit on 18 tons. Oh, fuck. Well, we might have to upgrade our launch pad then. That might be right. Oh, no, we don't have a Terrier. Don't have a Terrier. This is gonna be bad. Okay, okay. Couple that kit up. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants here. I forgot we don't have a Terrier. We don't have that sustain engine. This one's thrust limiter 50. I remember that. Okay, and then for aerodynamics, we did buy those fins. Fins look smaller, actually. No, winglets. There we go. This looks familiar. This thing might just not fucking explode on us. We won't have any RCS. What are we at here for our ship stats? Oh, it tells us our thrust. I forgot they have this now, as we can look up the inherent like thrust power of our ship and see if that's enough to get us to space. Right now I weigh 16 tons, so we're just under the weight limit. But I don't think we have the fuel to pull this off because I'm a little hazy on the gravity turn. What's my delta V? It's a 10,000 Kerbal ship. So hang on, we turn on everything. And then we jettison this, and then we jettison this. And then I don't want the parachute going with the engine. Yeah, I don't have a heap of confidence in this ship, but it's pretty close to the Turo one. Let's get the science. And I can't remember. I can't remember if we have to go out and I will just put one thermometer on. Oh, thank you. Booster thrust needs to be 65. I forgot. I think he was 65. Perfect. And then it's not going to be very efficient at all in orbit. I'm not exactly sure what the thrust limiter on this should be once we're in the upper atmosphere. All right, 10,000 Kerbals. We have to actually... I think we just need our periaps above 20, so we could do like one really trashy orbit and come right back down. That might count. Call this the up and atom. Very concerned. Very concerned about the gravity turn. Actually, that might be in the in-game wiki here they provided. Let's go back to the launch facility. The important thing is not to waste money. Although at this point, wasting money is basically wasting lives because we crashed the ship. Alright. Resources. No. Making history. No. Flight. Breaking ground? No. I have this, but this is for later. Actually, I'm not sure if I have breaking ground. Was breaking ground free? How the fuck do I take off properly? Turning with gravity. Alright, that's not super helpful. Getting up there. Gravity staying up there. Okay, shit. I already know, like, damn it. It's the getting into space part I need. Alright, we'll just wing it for now and get angry. This is... because this is the part where it's so easy for your ship to fall apart. Okay. Maximum throttle. We'll just wing it. I can't even tell which way the ocean is. I didn't rotate my ship, so probably right. We'll try to go with the turn they specified in the very first tutorial. I'm getting a bit of rotation here. This is bad. Almost time to ditch the solids. Oh boy. What's our apps here? Oh shit, 80. That was way too steep. We're definitely gonna hit the atmosphere. We just have to hopefully we have enough fuel. Alright, I want one of these. Upper atmosphere, collect that one. I forgot to put the fucking thermometer on. That sucks. Alright, I need you to get out. Oh, right, he's afraid to get out once we're in space, so he can't collect crew reports. Basically, once we get closer to our apoaps, we start burning sideways here. Actually, if I was smart, I'd set a maneuver node. If I was smart, I'd check the tutorial so I remember how to do that. I think we might need to upgrade our space center for that. Hopefully we have enough fuel. We got a full tank. Holy shit, that's burning down fast, though. Never mind. Do 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 do. Full throttle, please. Full throttle, please. I don't think we have enough gas. Come on. No. Revert to vehicle assembly. This one's not efficient enough in the atmosphere. So, I mean, we could start over-engineering it, right? And just put way more fuel on it. That's a classic way to fuck up your ship. Because now we have more gas for once we're up there, but that made it heavier, so this one won't have enough gas now. So just put even more on it. It's actually not that much more. These are only $100 each. That put us over the limit, though, I think. Yep. Just a little bit over. $17.651. Let's remember that thermometer this time, though. Right there. Up an atom. I mean, if we recover... Oh, wait, I'm extra dumb. I didn't actually put the final revert flight. We didn't put the decoupler for the parachute. Okay. Still respects the part limit. Perfect. Okay, so launch, separate, separate. Can I put an engine on a decoupler? I don't know. And then we decouple that, and then we come down. Okay. Losing some gas on the turn is the problem. Full throttle. Yeah, look at that turn right away. We get a bit of a pivot. Not sure why it's spinning, actually. Oh, this is bad. Let's just completely revert that. I think the weight's off. Yeah, I think it's because of this. I think it's the mystery goozer fucking with the alignment. Center of mass indicator is this, which I'm not too concerned about that. It's the center of thrust? I don't know. It's tricky because you don't have all the autopilot stuff unlocked. I'll just turn off SAS completely. It might be auto-correcting because this guy's such a low-level pilot and he's shit at it. Or maybe there's actually no SAS because I'm so early in the tech tree. Alright, launch. Yes, I got that spin. Yeah, I'm not wasting money on these reloads. I think I still turned way too sharp there. Look at that. No litter. Yeah, I think I turned too sharp on this one. Oh boy. Oh, look at that thing spin around. We want it at 80. Yeah, there was... this ship's got a problem with it. But if I can just even fucking bring this thing back down at all. Upper atmosphere, thermometer, log temperature. There's going to be a greasy orbit if I pull it off, but we need that money in science. If this doesn't work, we might just have to come back down, use the money to get more parts. We might not be comfortable enough with the game to get into orbit on this ship. Or I could have just set the thrust limiter once we're in space. Oops. I think we're going to come up shy again. Now, we need less thrust at a higher orbit, they said, right? Alright, let's see if we can salvage this orbit this time. That was actually pretty close this time. We don't have enough to deorbit. Shit. That was really close. This might be so close that we'll get pulled down, and it'll count. I mean, 20,000 doesn't count. The other side needs to be at least 70,000 as well. No, because it'll pull us down. Okay. Vert to launch. I like this ship. We just should have cut the engine and used this smaller thrust limiter. And then, yeah, we're spinning on the ascent, which worries me greatly. We're already being tilted over naturally by gravity. That's interesting. Maybe if I just let the fucking planet launch me off. Nah, she's starting to straighten up. Think the wind resistance is a bad sign? Oh yeah, look at that. Trying to pull me down. Trying to pull me down a bunch. Not good. Oh shit. SAS was off, so I just fucking started spinning. Should the SRBs be on the other sides? I'm not... That part shouldn't matter, I think. You might be right, though. We're just kind of like freestyling this, seeing how it works. I'm more concerned about my trajectory than our efficiency here. We're mostly avoiding the spin right now. Yeah, we burned through all the tanks before we even get to the Apoaps. There we go. A lot less weight there. Keep it to 80 and then we'll install the limiter. Let's try that. Still not enough fuel. I'm fucking it up. This engine's too shitty for space. Super close again, but let's just let it come down. We're in space now. That's 10 science. We can use that for the other engine, I think. Log temperature. It's 8. Oh, I can grab crew reports from inside, thank God. It's another 5. I'm going to stubbornly try to salvage the orbit again, but there's no fuel left. I think we need a Terrier. Hey there. Oh yeah, that's gone. But depending on where we land, we can grab some data as well. One last hurrah of science. Okay, we're definitely coming down, so let's shed this shit. And right now the data is of in space near Kerbal. Keep that one. And then we'll want to grab some oh, I'm not trying to get to Duna with this ship. We just started the career mode a little while ago. So, yeah, we'll splash down, I think, or something. We'll grab a mystery goo wherever it is we land. Log temperature. I have to climb out and grab it, which I can't do. So once we land, we'll climb out and grab that temperature. And then we'll grab a goo of wherever we land. We'll do a crew report of wherever we land. And then we'll log another temperature of wherever we land. Let's just keep it locked retrograde here. Oh, fuck. It never occurred to me that this might be too sharp for re-entry, too. Hope she holds together. Can't have our very first ship explode on us. Oh, fuck. It's already burning up. Hold. This should count as data for the thermometer. I think that thermometer's gonna fucking explode off of me. Oh boy. I think the pod will be fine, but that thermometer's in trouble. Hot, 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 hot. There she goes. Not the goo, too. Oh, we're going way too fast, aren't we, is the problem. We lost the goo. No, we don't have heat shield yet in the tech tree. All right, I really need that data. So we just won't get greedy with our orbit. We'll just do a suborbital trajectory and come back down. Definitely on the next ship, we'll be a little more careful to avoid this pitch. Or roll, I think. It's got some curve to it. I can't just rotate the whole ship on the pad. Something's making it rotate once we take off is the problem. And then we'll just widen this as much as we can. Am I in space? No. Now I'm in space. Just make this nice and fat so I don't die. How do I fix my launch profile? Well, the ship's not too hot to begin with, because I'm not on the good orbit, as you can see. Okay. Okay. Just burn the last of our fuel off here. That still doesn't seem safe enough. That seems pretty shallow. Alright, then we just decouple this. Grab a crew report. And then I want temperature. I need 2280 meters per second for an orbit at 80 kilometers. Yeah, I don't think this ship's generating that much. Log temperature. Grab an experiment, and then hopefully the shit doesn't burn up this time, but it might be worth it even just to bring back a crew report and advance the tech tree a little. Then yeah, we're really just trying to not die here, right? Fortunately, the SAS isn't working. Try this. Time should slow down once we get to the atmosphere, and then we can correct ourselves. Using physics. Alright, don't do this. We'll just come in on 2 times speed. I mean, that seems like a fairly shallow re-entry. The thermometer might be in trouble again. Are we slowing down? I don't feel like we've lost any speed relative to last time. Yeah, we are still a fucking rocket ship. Maybe I should just save some fuel and burn it to slow us down once we're actually in the atmosphere. Let's just see if Jebediah himself survives at this point. We should still turn a profit if we lose the science. It was a $10,000 ship. 11,000 Kerbals, I think it was. Okay, we kept the goo. I'll take it. Alright, don't need SAS. The gravity will tell us where to go. Looks like we're heading for some sort of mountain. Yeah, I almost feel like keep the engine attached and just do a controlled burn on our descent and then decouple it for safety. Can we do an in the air goo? No, don't do that. Oh boy. Still kind of fast. No, I think we're okay. Overwrite existing crew report? Just fucking log the crew report, dude. Okay, here we go. Nice and light, going slow, shouldn't explode. If I really wanted to, I could run up to that mountain, but I don't think I want to do that. Kerbals are a lot slower than they look. Oof. Grab this goo. Kerbin's Highlands, 3 science. He won't even get off in general. Jesus. All right, well, recover me. We need to make $10,000 from our contracts. Recover vessel. All right, we got 40 science. Well, sorry, we got 26 science. We had a little science before. We didn't recover much of it. We made a lot of money though, because we had 132,000 when we took off, and then he didn't gain any XP. You should be glad you're alive, Jebediah. I had to travel back in time repeatedly to save you. All right, let's not look at contracts right now. Let's focus on our research. All right, survivability. A radiator panel, so I almost feel like... Well, actually, hang on. The heat shield was the problem, right? Just slap a heat shield on that sucker, we're back in business. So 15 for the heat shield. Is that the Terrier? Where's the Terrier? The Terrier is what I need. God damn it. So there's got to be a way to get into space with these greedy engines. This one has higher thrust in a vacuum. So does this one, though. What's the difference? It's got 167. This is barely more thrust in a vacuum. Bigger fuel tank, though. So 20 and 15. So we could do that. We could get the large fuel tank and the heat shield. Which I think we'll try. Okay. Let's do that. I mean, maybe I need to launch with thumpers, but those are expensive. I don't think I should need a thumper to get into an orbit. All right. Research this. Research this. So we'll have access to barometer and thermometer reports if we can just get into space. Well, bring them back. We have lights, right? Justin was concerned about those. Nope, sorry, this is just science shit. Batteries, the science junior, the experiment storage unit. Oh, it's just, you can put all the data in this and it's much less likely to burn up. Antenna for transmitting it back. Actually, I wonder if I can transmit the thermometer data by default. And I'm not sure if the command pod has one by default. If I could just get this Terrier, because the tutorial got us into orbit with a Terrier. All right. Well, we have 8 science to our name, so that's enough of that. The tracking station. Do I have to upgrade the tracking station? I couldn't figure out how to place maneuver nodes. It's been a while. Orbits are visible in the map. Max DSN power. All right, that's 150,000 Kerbals. No. I can buy more contracts. No. No, we don't make... I don't know how to make space planes effectively. An active strategy. Takes 5% of reputation gains, and we generate money for each reputation I earn. I think we want to generate some science. We could make a quick buck from the science the R&D team has been collecting by selling exclusive rights to the highest bidder. That means we wouldn't be able to make use of that science ourselves. Holy shit, no. Outsourced R&D. It takes my money... but I'll get free science. I think we want this one. I'll get science for reputation. What's this? Funds become reputation. I can tank my reputation for a bunch of money to salvage us. I think we'll go with this. A program where undergrad researchers are given the opportunity to work in our Great Space program to boost the science earned out of each MIT of data. The interns don't get paid, but the prestige of working with such a grand organization is... I'm going to hope we don't need reputation right now, and we're going to go... I'll try that. Go with 5. Do I have that much reputation available? I hope so. Are you sure you want to activate this strategy? It can't be modified. Go. So, I get less reputation from contracts, but I get extra science. Okay. And then I need to upgrade the astronaut complex so they're not cowards and walk outside. Kerbals can disembark only on Kerbin. Alright. 282,000 Kerbals they can get outside in space. Or shit, or is that what it can do right now? Oh, I think that is what they can do right now. They should be able to perform EVA, so if I can get into space, we can grab a bunch of free space data. Vehicle assembly building. The launch pad might need money. 50,000? Never get to Duna? Well, yeah, that's why we're trying to do it. I've never been to Duna before. I've only been to Minmus. That's the furthest I've gotten. 109. You know what? I'm going to upgrade the launch pad. Yep, because then we can go up to 140 tons. That'll let us over-engineer like an idiot, but we can at least get to space. So Jeb's just a coward? Well, I mean, maybe they don't know how to go outside. Jeb's pretty great. He's only level 0, though. He needs to level up. Alright, first things first, put that fucking heat shield on. Which may or may not prevent the heat from going out. Okay, not that one. And this is just for space, right? Or does this work when I'm coming back in? They just added heat shields when I played. Last. Oh, we got the barometer. Put that on the other side. Angle snap, please. I have a feeling the heat shield won't protect the thermometer. It might fucking explode on us again. And we have the different engine, which I don't... Which one? Okay, the Reliant is the one I just bought. Although criticized by some due to their not insignificant use of so-called pieces found lying about, the LVT series engines have proven themselves as comparatively reliable. The T30 model boasts a failure and Rattly bits ratio below the 50% mark and has been considered a major improvement over previous models. So what do we have here? It's got 240 thrust in a vacuum, which isn't that much more, but like maybe 30 thrust is a lot in a vacuum. That's what? A 15% increase? Try the T45s. Well, I'm running T45s right now, and I just always run out of fuel when I'm trying to circularize. But also might just be a fuel problem. Let me check the Delta V. What is this? I have too many parts for the vehicle assembly building right now. That's a huge problem, but that's what the larger fuel tanks are for. How much do you hold? You hold 45 and 55, right? So you're 2 for the price of 1. And you're actually a little bit cheaper. There's no reason not to do this. Unless you're very precisely calculating your fuel, I think. Yeah, that's a problem right now. We're just trying to circularize. My ascent profile is all garbage because I don't know exactly what it is. Yeah, I don't know why this isn't at the same angle as my goo. Maybe that's... I want to say this is the reason I'm spinning at launch. This is the goo. Let's just take the goo off then. There we go. Problem solved, right? Okay, and then sorry, we're gonna calculate it here. Vessel situation. I'm in Kerbin. Altitude. It's my delta V. Start mass, end mass. Where's my... It seems to calculate. I'm not sure where the output's going. I don't see it on the screen. Sea level. There we go. Okay, here we go. So what did you see? I need 2280 to orbit at 80 kilometers. And my ship... is it my delta V's added up? So delta V's is 1300... 2860? So I'm... Even if I flew perfectly, I don't have enough delta V. Maybe I do want the bigger boosters to compensate for my shitty ascent. I don't think so, though. Because the tutorial got us up there. I think it's just the Terrier. I think it's... What do you swivel? Let's limit your thrust. Does the thrust limiter affect my delta V now? Actually, maybe the thrust limiter is just for... like maneuver node time in a vacuum? Maybe? Nah, yeah. I don't think thrust limiter would do anything in a vacuum, would it? Okay. Ditch this. There's the decoupler. There you are. I want... We'll go 3, 2, 3. And then I want the... hang on. The Relent's cheaper. But it's stronger. It has higher thrust at sea level and in a vacuum. Why would I use the 45? Because the 45 has vectoring? Okay, the Relent consumes more fuel. And yeah, the swivel has vectoring. The gimbal. Okay. I think swivel. I think swivel just to get up to space. Then you... Well, the 65 was, they said, the thrust limiter in the tutorial? What's this? The service bay. Heat-resistant service bay. Oh! I could put all my science in here. Now it looks like I can't find a way to put it inside. That's okay. And the service bay is kind of heavy. So no thanks. Alright, everybody's plugged in. I would like least to get into orbit tonight. I think it's almost time for a little bathroom break. Okay, hang on, hang on. I really don't like this being off center with the command pod, so we'll just... So a thumper's 850. Hammer's only... You know what? We're going to just spend a little extra money just to for sure get into space. And I didn't actually radial like I meant to. Kerbal mistake 101, making your ship stronger than it fucking needs to be, but holy Christ, this thing should brute force itself into orbit. Okay. Whoops. I just wanted to change the color. And we'll go thrust limiter 50. Actually, what's the power on you guys? So a hammer, thrust 197. Okay, this needs to be even lower. Let's do like 45, because it's got a stronger thrust power, but it has more weight. So we'll see if it works. And then they need some cones. This winglet is 37. Yeah, these definitely provide more. All right. Show all. All right, 1348. Whoops. All right, 2043, 1547. So now we have some bonus thrust for the garbage ascent profile because I'm not sure what I'm doing yet. And then hopefully we fix the rotational problems it was having. Maybe let's go aerodynamic overlay, kind of in the center. That's good, right? No, we would pivot. Center of mass is kind of in the middle. Actually, hang on. That's more near the center, I think. That might actually be the problem we were having. The center of mass might have been off with the boosters. Okay. It's got some bonus fuel. All right, now it doesn't. Now it's like 5 meters per second extra. But I guess hopefully most of this guy we switch over to a vacuum. So he goes from 1208 meters per second to... He gets an extra 300 once we break the atmosphere. I'm still very concerned. All right, let's take a quick bathroom break and then see if we can get this thing off the ground. It's only increased in price by like 3,000 Kerbals, which I like. But now we're at the point where we're gonna stop making money from records. So we gotta pick up these weird odd job ones. So to perform the test, I need to use a TD12 decoupler. I guess the trick with these ones is you would just shoot straight up and then at the right altitude fire the decoupler. Okay. I think we can pull that one off. And then we've got some focused observations, which are okay money. The problem is getting there precisely. Haul the Mark 12 radial mount drogue chute into flight over Kerbal. That's kind of easy. Just put the parachute on the side of your ship. We'll get $22,000 for it. I think this is the better one because we always bring a Mark 16 anyways. And if we fire it early... $10,000 to 14,000 meters, but we have to be going very slowly. So we'd pretty much have to sacrifice the rocket, I think. Like the rocket would be purpose-built for this contract, but we'd get $29,000. I mean, probably like a $5,000 or $6,000 rocket if you're careful. And then for this one, I need to bring a TD-25 into an escape trajectory. That's a lot of money if I can pull it off, though. And then if I can get into a suborbital trajectory over Kerbin, and then I fire the hammer solid fuel booster, which we could do. Okay, I'm going to grab this one. Active contracts, one of them is to get the orbit, so I can't, but we could put a hammer in our upper stage, maybe? But little break here. Alright, let's see if we can actually accomplish anything with this beast. 14,000 Kerbals. And we upgraded it, so he should get out in space at least. So we should be able to grab some space science. Heat shield should protect the thermometer and the barometer on our return. And go. Right, everything's... Yep. Very heavy. It's a lot of fuel, I guess. Still spinning a little bit. Oh, I see. Because, yeah, we're tilting this way. I think Justin's right with the fuel tanks. They should be symmetrical with our launch. Alright, okay, let's just keep it at this angle here. I think we're tilting a little too fast and far. Actually, the main fuel tank's almost empty. It's too small. Uh-oh. She's tipping over. Oh yeah, this isn't going anywhere. This is not going to fucking space. It's gonna have to drag this empty fuel tank because the boosters aren't done. Oh boy. Just immediately lost control with that middle engine gone. Oh fuck. She's going sideways. She's starting to overheat. Get the fuck off of me. What a fucking disaster. We're right back where we started. No fucking fuel to adjust the apoaps. And yeah, we keep taking off the wrong way. I rotated the ship wrong. We're in a vacuum, though, with the relent, right? Not the swivel. Nope, fuck, we got a swivel in this stage, too. Oh, I'm sure they'll be fine. That SRB. All right. Doo-doo-doo-doo. So this is a problem. We need to make sure we're oriented the right way. He mentioned that in the tutorial and I wasn't paying attention. Okay. The problem is it's the most efficient if we stay in this circle right near apoaps. So we kind of just always want to be right behind the apoaps. Nah, not enough fuel tanks. I mean, this was doomed from the start when that middle tank gave out before the SRBs. Yeah, this is even worse than our last attempt. Launch assembly. Thought the ship was a little cheap for what it was. Huh. Still only 14,000 Kerbals. That doesn't seem right. I think this guy wants another one. We're over-engineering. Rookie mistake. 15,000. Make sure everything's where it should be. 15,000, 1,500. Again, still not a lot of Delta V to spare. If we're lucky, the engine should burn out at the same time now. Oh, right. We're rotated wrong. Whoop. Now we might be okay. Maybe I shouldn't limit the boosters, but no, that's a lot of wasted fuel. Oh man, she's tipping really fast. Fight it. Fight it, girl. She's not fighting it at all. Oh no. Oh boy, what if we just cut the thrusters right now? Safe, very safe and efficient. I'm still tilting. Abort. Abort. Get the fuck out of there. Whoa. My heat shield. It's fine. All right, let's not cut these. They're too heavy to limit the thrust. Okay. Now we're actually going up so fast I don't have any power to turn it. Alright, we're starting to lose to the wind here now. Too fast. We're going way too fast. Maybe I should limit the thrust on those boosters. Not to 50, but maybe 75. Alright, now we'll just do a very inefficient turn here. I had so much momentum I can't turn. This is how you used to do it, actually, is just turn it like 10 kilometers. I mean, it kind of worked, right? Super inefficient, but... And then we just got to waste a shitload of fuel circularizing our orbit. It's just, I don't know what the timing is on the ascent. I'm going to have to fucking look it up and write it down. It's a little tricky because it's like, maintain this speed at this height and then maintain this maximum speed at this height. We're approaching the vacuum, so we have some decent fuel efficiency here. I'll burn a little early. I'm just gonna burn this one out and we'll use the entire next engine to circularize. He's not even controlling the ship. He's just dancing. God damn it, Cheb. There's the fuel. All right. Fairly high, not the narrowest. Might just be able to salvage this one. In fact, can you save it? Yes. Quick save. We did not amazing on the ascent, but we got a full fuel tank. I think we should be able to establish an orbit with what we have on this ship right now. We can at least accomplish the one goal. We can orbit our homeworld on the first stream. I mean, the tutorial did it for us with autopilot. All right, we're starting to lose speed. Just gun it. Hopefully that fuel tank holds. Oh, she'll hold. I hope. She's getting lopsided. Getting a little worried here. There's my periapsis. There it is. That was a bad burn, actually. But now that our periapsis is visible, I think we can do a... I think we've got enough. Come on. Yes. 74 kilometers. We're officially in space. Log the data. The instrument reads 0. It's as if we're in a vacuum. This will be worth less because we've already done it in space. The temperature we didn't bring back. All right. Time for an EVA. EVA report 8 times. Remove helmet. Great idea alert. All right. Now he has a little bit of fuel for his jetpack, but hopefully we don't float away. All right, let go. Take data. Can I reach around? I can. All right, we got the atmospheric pressure scan. Collect data. Restoring functionality will require a scientist. So if we have a scientist in the pod, he can reset the experiments, because otherwise the experiments are very delicate and we can only collect the data once. But later on, once we have like 3-man pods, you can have a scientist and a pilot, and I forget what the third class is. Engineer, I think. They fix things that break. Like, so that would be, for example, like if something got jammed, or maybe like if a solar panel broke, he could fix it. Move data. Okay, you can get back in now. Oh, mission accomplished. And then it's the cheapest to lower our orbit at the ApoAp. So we'll do a full rotation, and then we'll lower it. Put on 100 times speed. Mission time 28 minutes. So probably close to an hour by the time he hits the ground. If you're watching and you know how to play Kerbal Space Program, I know I did it wrong. I just don't know how to do it right. Okay, and then we just burn retrograde to bring this sucker back. And then we'll save a little bit of fuel to slow our descent once we actually start to come down. Looks like we will be in the ocean. Actually not, you know, as the gravity pulls you in, it very, very much tightens your descent. We do have to be careful though, because I think if I slow my speed too much, that might just change the angle and we'll burn up again. But we have the heat shield. The heat shield should buy us a lot of time now. Alright. Once we hit 70, it'll go back to 1 speed because we're back in the atmosphere. The majesty of space. Farewell. The problem is I don't really have that much fuel for a controlled descent. It's definitely not bringing the engine back with us. Pretty much once we start to burn up, I'm going to fire it and then decouple. I'll say at 40 kilometers is when we'll fire it up. Oh, we'll fire it up right fucking now. Alright, looks like it's keeping the heat off the thermometer. The mystery goo might not survive. We're not gaining any speed though, which is good. We're descending. This heat shield is doing an amazing job. Excellent purchase. I like that. I like that we learned our lesson from the first one. The scientists are like, fine, we'll invent a heat shield. Look at that. And then we'll just splash down in the ocean here, grab another round of data, and then call for help. Look at us. Log this data in the air. That's 10 science. And then we write that down, put it in the pod, and then we reset the machines and we write down the data from the sea level. That'll give us a nice big batch of data. I don't want to say it was a perfect flight because the part where we got off the ground was really greasy, but the in-space part went okay, I think. Warning, hatch may open. Oh, sorry, I thought the open part was cut off, and then it would say, warning, hatch may serial number on the heat shield. Can I do gravity slingshots? I think that's how you're supposed to get between planets. But getting between planets is the problem I have. I mostly just do gravity slingshots for like to get back from the moon. Actually, here's something we can try. That's too late. Oh, yep, he fucking let go. Revert! I was trying to quickly do a report while we were free falling, but it looks like the G-force just sucked them off. Ah! Oh well. But I did. Oh shit, I saved it. I saved it before we corrected our orbit. Let's try to have a smoother orbit. In that I mean I use way less fuel. We'll just throttle down as the APOAP starts to outrun us. Which it's not. It's a little weird. There she goes. Keep it like 1/3 power here. I don't think this is more efficient. I mean, 62,000, we did do it, but I don't think we saved that much more fuel. Maybe we did. I mean, not a shitload, obviously, but enough to slow down our ascent that much more, hopefully. $75's nice and comfy. We're in space again. All right. Like this. Port. Keep it. Take the data. Don't show that again. I know it'll break the machine. Remove. Take the data. And then beat aboard. Grab another crew report, which is worth nothing. Never mind, reset that one. Looks like crew reports are a one and done. You don't grab those ever again. Okay. We'll do a rotation and then we'll kill it just to make sure we get the credit for the orbiting record. Damn it. I suppose I can just kill the APOAPs instead of the periaps. Because we'll also... Whoa, I was pressing the wrong button. I've been in space for 3 days now. Alright. Had more tang than he can fucking handle. Let's try to get him down from here on regular speed. I think I need to upgrade the tracking center so I can get stuff like warp to point. Because that's usually what fucks me, is you overwarp and then overshoot your objective. Okay. I think I also need to upgrade the tracking center so I can set maneuver nodes, and that'll give me the proper burn values for setting up orbits. Gotta be careful, actually, because if you're in space for too long, you'd lose power and you wouldn't be able to turn the control wheel. But I think we generate just enough power to do it on the baby pod. We want to go retrograde. Careful. So yeah, so pilots are better at flying the ship when they level up. Scientists can fix experiments, and engineers can fix the ship itself. Eventually, we'll want to start having like each class in play. All right, there's our periaps. Where are we going to land? Kind of near the desert launch site. It'll probably be closer to these mountains, actually. But some data from the desert would be wonderful. We don't want to land in the highlands again. Actually, no, we're allowed to... No, not the highlands. Yeah, because the highlands is where we actually recovered our last ship, so any data we gathered there will be less valuable because we've already seen it. So we've got a little cluster of fuel left to slow our descent. The heat shield looks like it protects all our data, so we'll grab the goo on the ground. I don't want to grab atmosphere goo. But we'll do the thermometer and the barometer once we're in the air again. All right, we're almost at the 70,000 mark. I mean, if you're really quick, which I'm going to try right here, a little greasy, quick save number 1, is we're moving slow enough, surface speed, that I should be able to hop out and grab this data. Upper atmosphere. Take data quickly. Take data. Board. There, look at that. Actually, hang on if I want to get extra greedy here. EVA report. Yep, back. All right. And then because he was the pilot and he hopped out, we lost the SAS control. And we need to find it really quick. We don't want to be fucking free falling while we're on fire. Okay. Now we just need some lower atmosphere or in flight over Kerbal. No. How am I realigning the ship with none of those little thruster guys? I don't know how it actually works in real life, but there's like gyroscopes and shit inside the command pod because there's so little gravity. So just the centrifugal force I'm generating inside the ship is enough to spin it when we're in space. Once your ship gets too big, though, you need thrusters. Like, we have a really small ship right now, so the control wheels are good enough. So where are we going to land here? No, I think we might still hit the desert. I never looked into it. I never understood how it works, the control wheels, but it's a real thing as far as I know. So if I fire the engine too early, it'll really kill our trajectory and we'll land in the ocean or something. Well, I guess we didn't land in the ocean last time either, so we can still grab ocean data. Control moment gyroscopes. Yes. Sounds cool. Once our speed really gets killed by the air resistance, you'll see this start. Yep, see, it's already going. Inching. You know, I think it actually is going to overshoot the whole continent. We'll land in the water again. Am I in the upper atmosphere yet? Sorry, we want lower. We want lower atmosphere. We just got to remember to check it because, okay, there's the fire. Okay, looks like that killed all the overheating momentum, but yeah, it was way too much force. I probably could have done a more controlled burn and got to the desert, but no reason to risk it here. All right. Looks like a little bit of heat on that heat shield, but oh, nothing's slowing us down just yet. Upper atmosphere still. All right, a little heat. We're slowing down, but a little heat. Now we're definitely going to hit the ocean, which is fine. Losing momentum. Almost slow enough to not burn. Still on fire. I want to say 20,000 and under is lower atmosphere. That's just in the air. All right, there we go. There we go. Switch to just no SAS. Flying at Kerbal, grab that. Over Kerbal's water, okay. I want to re-grab this one then. Apparently the barometer doesn't care about the biome. And then what's this? Yeah, let's just grab the goo at sea level. Not the worst flight, except that one time when we jumped out and he got sucked off the side because I didn't account for that. That doesn't count. But I mean, we did get an orbit. Used more fuel than we probably should have. The boosters was probably overkill, but I'm not 100% sure how to do the ascent profile. Alright, get that parachute. Give us a bit of drag. Hope I configured this parachute properly. I think I did. We're going to find out in about 300 meters. Ah, we're fine. Look at that. And then, well, it's gonna fucking take them a while to come get me. We're near the desert, I guess, actually. We're near several launch sites. Not that it actually matters how long it takes to come get me, but we're kind of close to one of their response teams, I'm sure. And of course, when you're extra good, you can just like always make it a point to land back at the Kerbal Space Center or near it. So we just got to hop out, grab the data, do a new set of data, and then that should probably be another 50 science, I'd hope, at least. But and of course, now we're at the point where like the nodes are going to start costing like 100, 150 research soon. Okay, and then we'll just. All right, never mind. I'm too top heavy. All right, up. Take data. Log temperature. Temperature stand can only externally be controlled by scientists. That's fine. Let me get back in then. Log temperature remotely. Collected and recorded data from the water. Let's do this. The goo escapes into the water. That's probably safe. Keep it. Alright, and then I have to get out and grab this one. And then I just realized I don't have to actually grab the data once we're on the surface because you only have to grab it to reset the machine. Perfect. Alright, come get me. A relatively successful mission. We got 91 science from that, and our money went up again, which is good. I only recovered $2,000 worth of that $14,000 ship. Science frowns. What? Poor goo? Oh. Oh, he leveled up. I think that makes him better with the SAS, which will be handy moving forward. Astronaut complex. Pilots provide assistance in flying the vessel. See, he can do stability assist. What are my other pilots? Full vessel control without comnet access. That sounds very important. He can do prograde and retrograde holds, which that might actually be very useful. And then we have an engineer. Run experiments while he's in an EVA. Oh, he actually generates bonus science. Engineer. Oh, right, because we actually have to worry about gathering resources now. All right, engineer, not a huge deal until we can start landing on other planets, but we definitely want to eventually get our hands on a 2-man pod so we can put a scientist in there with Jebediah. Okay. And then I think, oh, never mind. The next Kerbal is going to cost me $65,000. Sorry, Krubals, we call them. Our roster's not a problem right now. All right. We broke the record because we got an orbit, so that was the contract we freed up. Next huge milestone contract is we have to get to the Mun. In the grand scheme of things, we know very little about the Mun. Let's see if we can explore it a bit further. That is way outside my... we need docking ports for the way I go to the Mun. We need docking ports. We need landing struts. We need way better engines. Basically, want to buy that Terrier, and that should make it a lot more efficient to at least orbit the planet. But then we've got atmospheric survey. Take pressure readings in flight above 19,000. Yeah, I feel like this is best with a plane, but I'm really bad at building and using planes. I suppose we could actually grab a plane from the Steam Workshop. Open. Steam. Is there anything that's like a nice little baby airplane I can use? This is just someone's house. A vertibird. This design is a result of a goldfish, meaning a hind helicopter. Featured ships for the day. Yes, I think we're not going to be able to find a ship in the game. That uses my parts. Like, they have some nice ships, but I need a nice baby airplane, basically. I actually don't have access to any airplane parts, either. We have to buy those on the research screen, which I don't think we'll do. Need to save our research. So, yeah, we can grab the Terrier, which is for space flight. Bigger fuel tank to help with the part limit. Fuel tank adapter, that's if you want to, like, narrow your vessel, because eventually you'll find wider fuel tanks. Well, I think this one's fucking massive. This one alone costs 45. So 45 and 45. This will give us the Science Bay Junior, the Experiment Storage Unit, radiators. We can get the Probodyne Staputnik, which is just a satellite. We might be able to fucking launch that thing to the moon, which I doubt. So, I mean, the Science Junior generates a bunch of science, and I think it'll break even on the 45 that this node's going to cost us. And then we've got a supplementary inline reaction wheel. This is more for satellites, because the pilot can't help. But this would also give me more control on my ships. A 2-man reentry module. That would help me get the scientist into space. But this thing's also fucking... No, it's 2,000. A stronger winglet. I want to say that the problem with the ship is maybe this is the winglet they gave us in the tutorial. And this is some baby airplane parts. Some bonus construction. A crew cabin. That's for getting more people into space. Stronger decoupler. A fuselage that does nothing. This is for... this is just for like really weirdly shaped ships so they don't tip over on the launch pad. Another decoupler, another narrowing adapter. So I think we want the Terrier for sure. Terrier for sure. We need something that works in a vacuum. Done. What's next? 90. Okay, a little expensive, if we're being honest with each other. What's this? A drain valve. Okay, looks like they've addressed this, because before you could do some really weird shit. It's like asparagus staging that didn't make sense, but in the engine you could make really efficient ships. You know what? I don't have time for another launch tonight. So we're pretty much just going to purchase our next node and call it a night. I mean, if you're good at Kerbal Space Program, we didn't get a lot done, but I think I got a lot done. This thing's a piece of shit. Look at that thrust, 16 and 20. This must be super tiny. That's probably for maneuvering satellites. Yeah, this is baby stuff. This is for if we want to put a satellite in orbit over the moon and just conduct data. And then these, I think, are some no fucking around engines. Yep. Oh, wow. The kickback. A double engine. That's neat. Meow. One of these engines gives more than enough thrust to jump as high as the sky, so we gave you 2. Yeah, I think I want the science. Radiators, maybe. Mostly, we'll get access to satellites. Do I have solar panels? No, solar panels are here, I'm guessing. Yep. The Probodobodyne. That's for satellites. Some lights for Justin, because he was concerned about seeing in space. The very first solar panel. We get expandable ones later. Rechargeable batteries. Thermal control system. Okay. Another light. All right, let's do this. Let's grab the science. Because Science Junior is great. It's great and it's not great now that I think about it. Because it's big, I think it might make our command pod too heavy, but I think we can just keep scooping the studies out of it and putting them in the command pod. Then we decouple this thing and let it burn up. Unfortunately, because it does cost 8. It's weak because it says, see, right under it, it says 5,500 Kerbals. But on the tooltip, it says 1,800 Kerbals. So I don't know. I'm buying this one, though. We need more science to advance on the check tree. And also we have the experiment storage unit. I don't even know. I don't even know what you do with this. Because the command pod should be able to hold all the data. This is probably for a satellite. Alright, then what do we have here? Space exploration. We're really not there yet. The experiment control station. This is new since I played. The Probodobodyne experiment control station coordinates and controls both power and data from nearby deployed parts and coordinates sending it back to Kerbin. Be sure to use one if you want to generate useful data. Can be left to gather data over long periods of time as the loneliness circuits were disabled. So it looks like we can like go to the moon and leave this behind and it'll keep transmitting shit back home for passive science. And then another storage unit for science. And that's just, that holds a lot of dudes. You can use this for rescue vessels or colony ships. There's just a ladder and a wheel. Yeah, power we probably want. I don't think... I'm very concerned about going to the moon without solar power. Because the batteries might just die on the... as we drift into the moon's orbit. So we need at least 90 to grab solar panels and batteries. And then, what is this? Huh. That's new. There's expandable solar panels. I think this is like a... This is a luxury upgrade. We should be able to get a lot done with just the static panels. What do we have here? Stack separator. The Goob ED monitor. What would happen if you left some mystery goo sitting around in the weird radiation in our atmosphere of some faraway planet? It's a thought that has occurred to nearly every Kerbal. Now you can find out thanks to the intrepid engineers at Fluid. Please allow trained scientists... so we definitely want to get a 2-man pod so we can go into space. I mean, honestly, if when we do go to the moon, I'll probably recreate Apollo. That's how I always do it. Just have a ship in orbit that you dock with, and then it sends down a lander. I've had the best experience with that. Oh, my skill. And then, yeah, probably this. So 45, so we can start leveling up a scientist. So we need 135, right? Yeah, we need 135 science. I'm not going to do plain shit. This is going to be handy, but we're fucking strapped for science. We'll get some free science from contracts, but I think next time we mostly have to do some of these busy work contracts. Which is like fly over this thing. Any of these giving me science? And these are giving me science as a problem. We kind of... I don't want to say skipped, because we do want to go to these biomes and do experiments while we're there. See, here we go. This one here gives us 16 science. And we have 4 years to do it. Actually, $11,000 each, even if we just purpose-built ships to go to each one. Oh, look at this. We get 11,000 from each one, and then 62,000. Yeah, let's grab this one. That's going to be a pain in the ass to do it all, but this might be our goal for next time. Yeah, we'll use this. We'll use the same Jeb. We'll use the same pilot, but we need to get Bob as our scientist in there. And then these are just hotkeys to go to the buildings, right? Yep. Okay. Let's go to tracking station. Patched conics are available in the map, and my DSN power goes up to 50G. I don't know what the fuck that means. And I have $321,000 right now, but the contract was from Jeb's? Oh. Jeb's Junkyard and Spaceship Parts. I think his grandfather or his father runs a junkyard. Jebediah Kerman's junk. Oh, nope, I think it's him. I think that's why they let him use the ship. Okay, tracking station. Here's all the parts Ooh, that's... Actually, this is terrible that it's all so close to me. So I have to get 16.6 kilometers above this place. 17.1, 18.3. It's a lot of weird shit. Yeah, I don't know how to fly a plane. I think I might need to learn how to fly a plane for these. The problem with it is it takes so fucking long to fly the plane. So even if I built an efficient one I could control accurately, it'd be like, this would probably be like a fucking 15-minute just cruise control. But we did make it into orbit. Maybe next time we'll try to leave a satellite up there to passively collect data. I'm not even sure how passive data collection works. That was before I played. You'd always have to go back to it every now and then and transmit the data. But the sky's literally the limit. Well, I guess Dune is the limit, because that's what we're shooting for to end. But I'm going to call it a night here. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back next time with more Kerbal Space Program and, well, whatever we decide to do next time. So, until then.